Hello, welcome back to a brand new episode of the Pick a Side podcast. My name is Moran, and I'm here with Andrew Velez, Joel Dehls, and John Tortorelli. And this is now episode 266. In this episode, we are joined by OG to talk about Jaylen Brown's non-commitment to the Celtics, if the OKC Thunder are the NBA's next great team, Damian Lillard's frustrations with the Blazers, the load management problem, and playoff matchups we want to see the most. The man, the myth, the legend is in the building. OG, how are you doing today?
What's up, fellas? What's going on, man? I get a lot of requests, and as you know, when you guys call, I always got time for you guys, no question.
Every time you're on the show, you say that statement, and it flatters me the same way every single time. So we appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely, fellas.
First things first, before we do anything, let's give a shout out to OG. Yesterday, him on his show with Fluent and Chill on the Players' Choice channel had Diesel, the big Diesel, Shaquille O'Neal on his show. Now, I said we're going to talk about that on the show. I want to get your thoughts. What was it like catching up with Shaq? Because you said that you had been in contact with him before. It's been a while since you've seen him. But talk to me. How was that? It
was great to catch up with him, man. I mean, well, the first thing I got to do is I got to clarify something. So Shaq and I aren't actually blood relatives, but I've known him since we were kids. And we've always referred to each other as first cousins. So it's always been like that ever since we've been kids. And there's a difference between relatives and family. And he and I are family. And we've been family ever since we were kids. So it was great to catch up with him. We had separated for a little while because, you know, life happens and you kind of lose touch with people. But we're family, man. And it was great to catch up with him. Absolutely, it was.
That's sick.
You got the pick with him too, right? In the booth?
I did.
That's big time.
I did.
That's very sick.
Mm-hmm.
I saw one of those clips because Shaq was talking about how he's a little jealous that he's not in the greatest of all time conversation, but he acknowledges that he's not in that conversation. But he says he'll be damned if someone says that anyone else is the most dominant, that they created his own category for him. Because when you talk about the best shooters of all time, you talk about Steph, you talk about Ray, Clay, Reggie, but the most dominant, it's him and Wilt. And I'm watching this video, and I'm like, when is OG going to throw Giannis's name into the mix? But then Shaquille was insistent, don't do that. Don't keep it around me. So I wonder if he knows in the back of his mind that Giannis is on the rise and coming for that title. And I wonder if he's trying to cut that conversation before it actually happens.
Well, I'm sorry, Jokey.
No, you can go, OG. It's fine.
It's not that he's cutting the conversation. It's the same logic that I have when we talk about Joker. So, for example, Joker be in the league MVP for the third straight year if he becomes the league MVP for the third straight year. There's still a box that hasn't been checked, right? So I can't talk about Joker like I talk about Shaq, like I talk about Chamberlain, like I talk about Jabbar, like I talk about all the great bigs, because there's some things that he hasn't done that those guys have done. So as awesome as I think Giannis is, and I think Giannis is the best player in the league, I can't talk about him in a dominant sense like I talk about Shaq, because there's things that Shaq has done that he hasn't done. So I can't talk about him like that.
I agree. I just want Giannis's name to be mentioned in that top three. That's all I wanted, because we acknowledge Shaq is most definitely the most dominant player we've seen in the NBA. But the way that Giannis plays, he has to be in that conversation.
Giannis over LeBron?
LeBron, of course, has to be in there, but
LeBron has to be top three.
LeBron, I'm fine with that too.
Kareem has to be.
He mentioned Wilt's name as well, so I understood that also. Kareem definitely, but I feel like Giannis's game is just so predicated into getting into the paint and scoring that way, as opposed to LeBron, where yes, if he drives the basketball to the rim, he's going to be dominant in that sense too. But he's able to score in multiple facets, where Giannis is, where he could. Primarily, it's paint scoring.
So this is from a pure physicality standpoint.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. Which is fair. Absolutely, it's fair. However, when you're talking about guys like Shaq, when you talk about guys like Chamberlain, I mean, they changed the rules for Chamberlain. A lot of people don't understand. A lot of people don't talk about, you know, why you got to stand behind the free throw line to shoot free throws. Well, Wilt could dunk the ball from the free throw line without running. So the rules committee was like, wait a minute, no, you can't do that. You know, there's a reason why the ball, when it goes off the top of the backboard, it's out of bounds, because Wilt could touch the top of the backboard. So what? Okay, wait, we can't do that. They had to widen the lane. Well, the same logic with Shaq. They had to change the rules for him. We haven't had to change the rules or do anything like that for Giannis. Giannis plays a very physical game, which, don't get me wrong, I love that about Giannis. I was watching them last year when they played against the Boston Celtics and how the Celtics tried to rough him up early. And I'm thinking to myself, guys, he wants to play this way. So if you think that that's going to work, you're going to have to try something different, because that's not going to work. But until we get to a point where we're doing things like what we did for Jabbar, where, you know, they took Duncan out of the game because of Jabbar, which is why he developed the skyhook. So until we get to that point with Giannis, I can't talk about him like I talk about Shaq. I can't talk about him like I talk about Chamberlain or Jabbar. You know, I can't talk about him like I talk about those guys.
Understandable.
So, OG, right now, where do you stand on the MVP race? Do you think Embiid is a front runner?
Here's the thing, Joe, and I've had this conversation before. We get the MVP so screwed up because the best player has won it, but the best player hasn't won it. So we kind of get confused that is it the best player in the league or is it the guy who's the most valuable to his team's success? And I've mentioned this in the past when I look at what Giannis is doing. I want to make sure I'm clear on this. I think Giannis is the best player in the game. No question about it. I think he's the best player in the game. But when I look at his unit and I look at how valuable he is to his unit, as opposed to how valuable is Embiid to his unit. I mean, he's running with a 20 and 10 guy, not just a 20 and 10 guy. James Harden leads the league in assists. I mean, that's a pretty big deal running with a guy like that. He complements his game. He complements Joel Embiid's game tremendously, in addition to complementing everybody else's game. That entire offense is ran through Joker. As good as Jamal Murray is, as good as MPJ is, Joker is responsible for getting a lot of those guys what they need to get because of the gravity that Joker creates. So when I think about a guy who's more valuable to his team's success, not the best player in the game, the guy who's the most valuable to his team's success, as of right now, I have to say it's Joker.
That sounds logic, and I think that a lot of the narratives within the media have kind of propelled Embiid to now being the favorite by, I think, a wide margin. I think Embiid is like the betting favorite by
big time,
a landslide right now. Yeah, he has like minus odds right now.
Such a short time frame. Too.
Make no mistake about it, Joe. He is awesome. Okay, I want to make sure we clear. I think he's got the second most 40-10 games in the league this year.
He has the most 30-point games.
He's got the most 30-point games. I think he's got the second most 40-10 games behind Giannis. I would like to see him be a better rebounder. I would like to see that. But other than that, I mean, I think the last 10 games, he's been the best rim protector in the game. I think next to Evan Mobley, but he's awesome. No question about that. But when I think of value and how valuable a guy is he more valuable to Philadelphia than Joker is to Denver?
I think when it comes to the MVPs, most of the time, things always are balanced at the end of the day. And with Joel Embiid, I thought he probably should have won MVP 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And him winning MVP now is kind of going to balance that. Out, because Joel Embiid has been on a tear the last 3 years. He's just always had injuries that have kind of took him out of the race late in the season.
His first time playing 60 games in 4 years, and that's why I didn't win 2 years ago. Because the first center since Bob McAdoo in 1975 to be averaging 30 points in back-to-back seasons. Mm-hmm. McAdoo was not doing that on a top 2 seed, so generational stuff.
He was dominant last night against Golden State too.
So they couldn't do anything with him.
But he could not be stopped. We were talking through in the car. It does not matter where he was getting the ball, no matter how Looney was defending him, he was falling sideways, backwards, just everything was going in until really last minute of the game. They got a couple stops and Golden State was able to get away with it. I respected his comments.
He was like, yeah, I saw Draymond talking about how Jokic is the hardest player to guard, the hardest big to guard. And he's like, yeah, I took that personal.
And Draymond absolutely walked that back too. He said, well, wait a minute. So hold on. Joel Embiid is the toughest guy in the league to guard. Yes, he did say that.
Embiid on defense was getting fried, though.
He was getting cooked.
Yeah.
They were hitting some nice ass lately.
I saw some tweet. I don't know what account it was, but they're saying, I understand that that Embiid is probably the better defender of the two, but I think it gets overanalyzed because if Embiid was in the West, then he'd have to play Curry, he'd have to play Dame, he'd have to play Shea, all these great guards that are still great at finishing at the rim. They're just high potent scorers that he's really not seeing over in the East. So it's that type of difference. And I didn't think about that really. I'm thinking primarily the only folks would be Embiid defending on other bigs, but that really also takes into account the defenses as well because these guys are really the ones that are running the show for these offenses.
Yeah, it's more wing heavy,
no doubt.
Now, before we get into the first segment, Boom Fantasy, what do we have for today?
Yes, sir. So Boom Fantasy, we have a promo going on right now for college basketball. If you place, I believe it's a $20+ entry today and tomorrow, you'll be getting a $10 bonus. So if you go overhead, Boom Fantasy, links in the description, use code PICKASIDE. Go ahead, your favorite. We're in the Elite 8 now, right?
Yep.
Going
right?
to.
Yeah,
It's
sure,
the last.
about to be,
It's the last stretch. Unless there's
Today is Sweet 16 games.
Sweet
I
16
believe.
Okay.
Okay.
The last couple of them, I guess.
Yeah, and then we're getting into the nitty gritty. It's been a wild March Madness. I mean, this is the first time in how many years it's not a 1 seed left.
No, they all finished yesterday.
Yes,
So this is Elite Eight.
Elite Eight, right?
OG, are you keeping up with college basketball?
Am I? And I'm not a college basketball fan, but am I keeping up with college basketball? My man. I went to high school with him, grew up with him. Coach Dan Hurley.
Mm-hmm.
He's taking that UConn team. I got them going to the Final Four. I'm so rooting for them. Absolutely. And I'm not a college basketball fan, but I'm rooting for Dan Hurley. Yes, I am.
I'm not a college basketball fan, and we were talking about this on the playback. I tried not to be someone that I'm not. So I asked questions. We're on the playback. I was saying, hey, talk to me. Who are these guys that I need to look out for? But yesterday was probably the most college basketball I watched in a long time. And it was disappointing because I was rooting for Alabama. Of course, Javon Quinterly, Hackensack native.
He had a lot of blocks.
He had an unfortunate. Yeah, no, he was driving to the basket. He was getting stuffed at the rim. Probably his worst game of the tournament. And then Brandon Miller, another one who was pretty underwhelming this entire tournament. I was pretty upset that they lost. But Houston getting upset, Princeton losing. They're a great run, unfortunately, coming to an end. But some good college basketball recently. A lot of it.
Now, tomorrow on Playback, we'll be live for the Warriors and Timberwolves game.
What time's that game at?
I think it's like 9:30 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a very
Another late game.
Yeah,
Another
it's a
late game.
I think people love the late games. We might have West Coast audience.
Coast, big time.
Yeah, West Coast audience
vibe out in
3
there.
hours
Is
behind.
Ant expected to be
Yeah, for
back
sure.
or no? Is Ant expected to be back?
I don't know, but Cat's back.
Yeah, I
and
know.
McDaniel's taking it offensively.
McDaniel's been doing this.
You
thing
know,
for sure.
McDaniel's is that guy.
He's nice.
So on to the first topic of the show. This was noteworthy this past week. Jaylen Brown on Staying in Boston said, I don't know. As long as I'm needed, it's not up to me. We'll see how they feel about me over time, and I feel about them over time. Hopefully, whatever it is, it makes sense, but I will stay where I'm wanted. I will stay where I'm needed and treated correctly. This was not the answer you were hoping for if you were a Boston Celtics fan.
Look at the smile on his face,
And
bro.
Dehls, I want you to go.
Derby
I want you to go right after OG gives his spiel on.
Joe, stick right where you at, right there. Stay right there where you at. Stay with him, because I'm really interested to hear this. No doubt about that.
Jaylen Brown non-committal. It sounds like he's winking at coming to the Knicks.
Oh my god!
Sometime soon. So I'm just curious to know how you feel about Jaylen Brown not wanting to be in Boston, maybe.
Not wanting to be in Boston. That's how we're spinning this topic. Listen, when I first read the comments, obviously as a Celtic fan, I want to be a Celtic for life, right? That's what I want to hear Jaylen Brown say. But I understand, he's a tremendous player, one of the top 15, 20 players in the league. And he hasn't always been treated like that by the Boston Celtics organization. Now, I think a lot of that has been from other teams trying to get Jaylen Brown. When you go back and think about the days we were trying to acquire DeMarcus Cousins and Jimmy Butler and Anthony Davis, Paul George for a time, Kevin Durant. And this KD one really felt like the first time it felt real that the Celtics were significantly interested in trading away Jaylen Brown. All those other times, it more felt like when Danny Ainge was the GM at the time. You know how Danny Ainge, he wheels and deals. He's always going to call about players. And whenever they asked about Jaylen Brown, it felt like conversations never really got anywhere. So now this offseason, when you're coming off a finals appearance, Jaylen Brown's looking around and saying, hey, I just got to the finals. And now all of a sudden, this offseason, now is when you're seriously looking to move me. So I understand his comments, and I don't have a huge problem with it, right? He's a tremendous player. He should be in a place where he is respected, where he's wanted, where he gets paid, where he feels like he is going to be treated like the superstar he deserves. And I think Boston has done an okay job about that. And the hardest thing is that you have Jason Tatum there, who is the better player out of the two. I think the gap might not be as large as people think. They think that Jason Tatum has to be the best player every single night. When we see Jaylen Brown, especially post All-Star break, has been the better player for the Boston Celtics. Now, I think there's a few things that go into his future. The number one thing has to be if he makes All-NBA. If he's going to be a supermax player, the Celtics are going to be able to offer $100+ million more than any other team out there. That's going to have a huge say in whether he stays in Boston. Even if he doesn't get All-NBA, they could still offer around $30-40 million with an extra year than any other team would. So I hope that Jaylen Brown realizes that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. When you want to go and win a championship, you're going to have to sacrifice, right? I know Jaylen Brown thinks he's a tremendous player, but you're going to need a second guy with you to always make that championship run. And the fact that he has Jason Tatum there, a guy that they seem to get along. I know the media likes to spin narratives, but they seem to get along. Jason Tatum said in his post-game press conference yesterday that when him, Brad, and Jaylen talked, that they kind of just said, we need you here. Like, we need you if we want to reach our goals. And Jaylen Brown also said after the Kings game, when he was asked about the comments, that a lot of times when writers have agendas, things could be spun in a different kind of way. And he went on to say, if I want to, I can clear those comments later. The Jaylen Brown still has another year on his contract. He wouldn't be a free agent until the 2024 offseason. But I'm hopeful, and I'm still 80-90% confident he's going to be a Celtic. I think Brad Stevens and him have a great relationship. The rest of the guys, him and Robert Williams, Marcus Smart, all have great relationships. I think they'll be able to get past this.
This is interesting because I want to preface what I say by saying that if he does make All-NBA, everything I'm saying goes out the water.
Wash, agreed.
Because they're going to extend him to a 5-year, $290 million contract. He's not turning that down. That's over $100 million raise over what any team can give him. So I'll say that.
Is that what it'd be? 5 years, 290?
Yeah.
What?
And the way eligibility works, you have to make All-NBA in 2 of the last 3 years or the last season. And so that's why it hasn't been extended yet.
That is stupid. That is,
and that's why he's betting on
absurd amount
himself.
of money.
I want to say Jaylen Brown has come a long way. You know, when he first got his contract extension, people thought it was overpay, and he very quickly put that narrative to rest because he performed at a big time level. But Dehls, the Celtics are not treating this man right, and I feel like he needs to go to a place that he's treated right. He was drafted with the 3rd overall pick. Only played 17 minutes a game that year. I mean, come on, he's 3rd overall pick.
He was a role player.
He was the most recruited player out of California since Jason Kidd. You know, this guy was big time, right? The second year with Jason Tatum, they make a really good playoff run. He was one of the catalysts for it. Hayward and Kyrie come back. He's relegated to the bench. When he thought it was probably his time to shine, he wasn't able to shine. He was involved in every single trade rumor, whether it be Kawhi Leonard for Anthony Davis, and now, as of recently, Kevin Durant. And he had to call Brad Stevens and Jason Tatum on 3-way and be like, yo, what's going on here? Because I don't know what direction the organization is going in. He felt betrayed. And I understand why he felt betrayed. I understand it's also Kevin Durant. But you see Ime Udoka left, and now somebody Jaylen Brown is very close with. The KD rumors, listen, I think he gets along with Jason Tatum great. I'm not going to say that he doesn't. I know that he does, and Jaylen Brown even said that, most importantly, we get along on the court. That's most important. But I feel like Jaylen Brown wants to be the man on the team. And what better way to be a man on the team than going to the Madison Square Garden and playing in front of New York Knicks fans? I think Jaylen Brown, if he leaves, that's the team that's going to go and pick him up.
You could have bet minus 1,000 odds this was going to be Joel's take.
Oh, no doubt.
He has to leave and go to the Knicks. Minus 1,000.
It's not just walking out the door. It's walking out the door to the Knicks. It's not going to New Orleans. It's not going to Dallas. It's to the Knicks. Of course, Joe.
It's absolutely big time market. He's a big time name. He wants to be recognized as one of the best. He wants to.
So we all know I'm a huge Jaylen Brown fan, and it's acknowledged that I do believe that he is still the best Robin in the game. There is no better counterpart to your superstar than Jaylen Brown. He's shown that the last 2 seasons, specifically this season. And people have been a little hypercritical of his defense. I'm not too worried about that for the fact that it is the regular season. You lock in come playoff time. And I think that he's realized that in order to make an All-NBA team, you need to have the points, you need to have the statistics. And he's done that so far this season. Since the All-Star break, even last night he exemplified that. But prior to last night, he's averaging 27, 6 and 4 on 50% from the field, 40% from 3. He's been spectacular since the All-Star break. He has been the Celtics' most consistent player all season, realistically. Jason Tatum's their best player, no doubt about it, but you see his inconsistencies from time to time. Jaylen Brown is Mr. Consistent. Now, to talk about his recent situation with the Celtics and being, quote-unquote, non-committal, there's reasons for that. And I spoke about that briefly on last show. There is the fact that Boston fans are extremely critical of their players in more ways than one. Number 2, he is included in every single trade that you guys have already mentioned, especially for the fact of, hey, Kevin Durant's 34 years old. He is Kevin Durant. It's understood. But I just went to the championship with you guys. I was our best player in the NBA Finals.
Without a doubt.
And you constantly keep putting my name in these trade rumors to try and improve this quote-unquote roster when, again, I've been the most consistent player for us the past 2 seasons. There's a certain amount of disrespect that if I'm Jaylen Brown, that's how I'm feeling. And it's also the environment that you play in. I already mentioned the fans are super critical. The town itself is historically known for being extremely harsh on their players.
Not being the most progressive.
I think that's the word I'm looking for, without being too forward in my words. But you guys all understand what I mean by that. So if I'm Jaylen Brown and I have an opportunity to go prove that I am a true number one on another team, I don't want him to go to a situation like Charlotte where he's completely ruining his chances of winning an NBA championship. The Knicks is a solid team. I won't even mention my Lakers because that's not a realistic opportunity, but the Knicks are a solid team. You could probably throw in
Mavs.
The Mavericks would be an amazing team. The Heat would probably be a very interesting team. That is a very great name also because you do have a solid foundation already with Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner. You add Jaylen Brown to that mix. I think personally he would be the best player on that team. But I don't know if they're still contenders. I still see Jaylen Brown being able to have his most success in Boston because I think that he is the best number two in the game. And that's where he can thrive and he can succeed his most. I don't know if he could be a number one on a championship roster for the fact that he's still not that great playmaker. He would have to have another playmaker next to him. And really, that's what it comes down to, his lack of playmaking, why I'm not over the moon about him being the number one on a championship team. Where Tatum, he still is a solid playmaker, a great scorer in his own right, great defender. But what holds Jaylen Brown back is that playmaking aspect. So listen, it's in his right. I definitely understand why he would feel disrespected. But if I'm Jaylen Brown, I feel like, hey, I'm in the perfect spot for me right now. Tatum and I are one of the best young duos in this league, arguably the best young duo in this league. And if we stay together for our entire careers, we could really make a run at a couple of championships.
Yeah.
OG, you take it.
Well, for Joe, and Joe can appreciate the football logic, how awesome was Alvin Harper when he was running with Michael Irvin? And then when he moved over and went to Tampa, did we just completely forget about him?
Yeah.
I don't want that to happen to Jaylen Brown because as a number two, a lot of times what we do is we kind of get these guys confused where he looks good with this guy. He looks good in this system. Well, wait a minute. Maybe he might be this good. When in reality, he's good for what's going on right now. I think Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are what Kawhi Leonard and Paul George were supposed to be. And in the process of them being that, they've excelled in the NBA. But what we also leave out is we leave out the fact that Jaylen Brown's numbers, they go down in the playoffs. And in the process of his numbers going down in the playoffs, his durability is in question too. I mean, he missed the playoffs. I think it was in 21. I think he missed the playoffs. This season, you mentioned that Jaylen Brown has been the most consistent. In fact, he's missed 11 games. Jason Tatum has only missed 5 games this year. Jason Tatum has actually been the most consistent player that they've had. Now, he hasn't shot the ball as well as people would like him to, and that's largely due to the fact that he plays on the long ball line and at the rim. There is nothing in between. And I've mentioned this in the past. I feel like once he gets that 12 to 15, that 15 to 18 consistently in his game, we're talking about a top 3 player for the next 5 to 8 years, no question about it. But in terms of consistency, him being in the lineup and him giving them an opportunity to win, he's the guy that they depend on the most, and he's been there the most. Now, with Jaylen Brown being a number 2, I don't understand why that's an issue. I mean, we talk about guys being awesome number 2s. I mean, Scottie Pippen, the downside to being a number 2 is people talking about Scottie Pippen. Well, you played with Jordan. Well, think about how awesome he was playing with Jordan. So when I think about Jaylen Brown playing with Jason Tatum, if this equates to NBA championships, how many guys wouldn't take that? There are plenty of guys who would take that. And for the idea of him leaving Boston, I think this is the best situation for him. Number 1, they're going to pay him the most. Number 2, he's got the best opportunity to be on a championship team and win an NBA championship. Number 3, he's in the best basketball situation. I mean, how many number 2s averaging 27 a game? And Joe, you had mentioned being an all-NBA performer. I'm trying to think of 5 other guards in the NBA that are better than him, that are going to be on the all-NBA team. Donovan Mitchell, Luka, Dame, Steph,
SGA,
Fox.
Fox probably has to make it. SGA has to make it, in my opinion.
Jaylen Brown's played more minutes as small forward this year than shooting guard. I don't know. You know how the NBA is. You know, they could be labeled.
Now, OG, this is a question for you because I'm actually curious where you stand on it. If you were voting all NBA between Jaylen Brown and James Harden, who are you going with?
Jaylen Brown. Even though James Harden is leading the league in assists. And I think that those two guys, I think they have similar roles on their team, how effective they are and how important they are to their unit. James Harden leading the league in assists and what he brings to that team offensively. But when I think about what Jaylen Brown brings to that team, I mean, 27 and 6 and what he does on the defensive side of the ball and how effective he's been, and the fact that Boston has been at the top of the Eastern Conference the entire season, it's difficult for me to believe that this guy isn't an all-league performer. I don't know. I'm thinking about in the past a number 2 that's averaged 27 a game that wasn't an all-league performer. The only guy that I can remember that was a number 2, that was Bryant. Yeah. That was an all-league performer. And I think about Steph Curry, how awesome he was with Kevin Durant. And I don't think Steph Curry averaged 27 a game as a number 2.
Was Amari an all-league performer?
Amari Stoudemire with the Suns?
Uh-huh.
Not only was he an all-league performer, he was first-team All-NBA.
Yeah, okay. But there wasn't a second guy on that team that averaged more than that. Steve Nash was like an 18 and 10 guy.
Got it. Right. But I know Nash was the MVP. So I know that Stoudemire, though, he was the more.
There have been 4 duos to average 27 points per game or more in the season. 1965 Lakers with Jerry West and Elgin Baylor. 2001 Lakers with Shaq and Kobe, 2003 Lakers with Shaq and Kobe, and the 2020 Rockets with Harden and Russell Westbrook.
AD and LeBron didn't average because he averaged 25. Was it 25 that year?
I think
AD averaged 26. James averaged 25.
That's what it was.
Mm-hmm. Now, Jaylen Brown's eligible at forward. He's not eligible at guard. I want to make that clear because the last 2 years he has not been more of a guard. He's actually played some minutes at power forward, and so it's not a question of him, Halliburton, Fox, and all those guys. It's a question of Jimmy Butler versus Jaylen Brown. Jimmy's played 3 less games. He's been more efficient, but Jaylen's on an actual good team, let alone the number 1, number 2 seed in his conference. So I think that's the bigger question here.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of the forwards, so you named one, Jimmy Butler. Who else will be the forwards?
Giannis, James, Jimmy Butler,
Tatum, Sabonis.
Wants to be 5.
Sabonis. Does he go before Siakam? I think he does.
I think he does.
Yep. Yeah. Does he go before Lauri Markkanen?
Yes,
he does go before Markkanen.
He does.
Mm-hmm.
He does go.
No, he criticize Jaylen Brown's playmaking. What does Lauri Markkanen do as a playmaker? So
fair enough.
I think I do. I think Jaylen Brown is an All-NBA performer.
Yeah, I do. The first spot for sure. The guard one is it's up in the air.
There's a lot of really good guards.
With Rob missing so many games, it's been Smart, White, Tatum, and Brown, and Al at the 5. So he's been playing much more forward than guard this year.
I know that Dehls has this curse going around that whenever he buys a jersey of a player,
it's real,
and the player ends up leaving, he has a lot of Jaylen Brown shirts. I don't know if that counts.
It's honestly just the Jets, if we're being completely honest with each other. It's really just the Jets. I have Le'Veon, Jamal Adams. I had a Favre jersey, Matt Forte, Elijah Moore. Thank you.
Matt Forte, you did it.
It's crazy. We started to see Tatum become his most inconsistent this season when Joel.
I was gifted the jersey. I thought I was in the clear with gifted. But thankfully Tatum's been more efficient these last 2 games. Last comment on Jaylen Brown, I will say, it is, I think, an easy fix if I'm Brad Stevens, because the NBA, if you guys aren't aware, you can do a no trade clause, right? If Jaylen Brown is worried about constantly being in these trade rumors, constantly having the media spin up these narratives about him, I think it's pretty easy for Brad Stevens to say, listen, we want you on the Celtics for the next 5 years. We do not want to trade you. We are giving you a no trade clause. So even if something happens years down the road, we want you to have that security. No, we are not looking to move you.
I don't know. I think that's more so reserved for a player like Bradley Beal. All right.
Dale, I'm surprised, Dale, that you let Joe off the hook with the Knicks logic, because if I'm not mistaken, did the Knicks not make the playoffs 2 years ago and everybody was loving Julius Randle? Was Julius Randle not on the trade block last year? Just one year after they make the playoffs, everybody's loving Julius Randle. Now all of a sudden they don't make the playoffs, get Julius Randle out of town. How long before Jaylen Brown is in New York before y'all ready to run him out of town? How long?
We have the 2 JBs and Jalen Brunson, Jaylen Brown. Oh no, we're going all the way. OG.
That's why that probably is the only fit that I really would love to see Jaylen Brown leave the Celtics.
The Celtics will not be giving the Knicks.
Yeah,
Brown.
No, they won't. It's what you said, Dale. It's an easy fix. You know how easy it is? Pay him. End of story.
No trade clause.
We're done.
So when it comes to the All NBA teams, it's not forwards; it's front court, correct?
Yes.
No, it's 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center.
Yeah, facts.
Okay.
Sabonis goes as a 5. So he might not even be.
He will be, I think.
Yeah, so I don't think I'd worry about him.
Yeah, because it's Embiid.
He has to be in there.
It's Embiid, Jokic, Sabonis. Those are 3 centers for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm looking at power forward.
What about Joker?
Giannis.
Jokic is it's one of the two. Embiid or Jokic are going to be first, second team.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
So you look at power forward, Giannis. Would you put Anthony Davis over JB in All NBA or no?
I don't know.
He's missed a lot of time.
AD did miss a.
He's played 48 games, I think he's played.
Jaylen Brown's played 62.
That's not enough. 48's not enough.
Would this surprise you, Joe? That do you know what the criteria is for making All NBA in terms of games played?
What is it?
None. There is none.
Oh, wow.
You don't have to have a specific amount of games to make the All NBA team. I mean, Kawhi Leonard made the All NBA team in the 19th season. He played 55 games that year. Kyrie Irving made the All NBA team. Played 54 games. Bill Walton made the All NBA team, and I think when he won the league MVP, I think he played 47 games or 50 games that year. There is no set criteria for how many games you play. Now, the fact that we see you more, that does help your case, but there is no set criteria for how many games a guy plays.
Kyrie's probably going to get robbed from All NBA, but he's Kyrie.
Robbed?
Are you sure about that?
Do you think he's going to make the All NBA?
I don't think.
I do not.
I don't think if he doesn't make it, it's him robbed.
I mean, do you see what the numbers that he's doing on the efficiency that he's been on since All-Star break? He's a 50, 40, 90 player, 27 points per game. I mean, Kyrie legitimately has been amazing.
No, he has been. It's just so many other guys at the guard position better than him, though.
So many?
I would say Tyrese Halliburton over Kyrie this year.
I wouldn't.
There's only one reason the Pacers are competitive.
I don't disagree with that statement.
Without him, they might be the worst team.
Kyrie Irving just blew up an entire team this season.
We're
gonna talk about the second
one.
What
does that have to do with his individual?
3 and 7?
All NBA is not. Are you the best teammate?
It's also team performance though.
Especially when you get to tiebreakers, when you have Kyrie go to the Mavs and it's just
that's why De'Aaron Fox is higher than a lot of people.
Trae Young was All NBA last season. They were the 8th seed. Say that one more time.
Jimmy Butler or Jaylen Brown.
SGA will be in
Jimmy Butler or Jaylen Brown.
Jaylen.
I don't know.
100% confident. 100% confident. LeBron James made the All NBA team last year. They did not make the playoffs.
He was the 3rd seed.
Well, it's not that you can't.
And they did not make the playoffs.
He was the 3rd.
Right. So your team performance, I don't think that has much to do with it. I think you can make the All NBA team. You could be an All Pro without making the playoffs or being at the top of the West or the Eastern Conference. You could still make the All NBA team. But
sorry, go ahead.
Like Damian Lillard's going to make the All NBA team. I don't think Portland's making the playoffs.
No.
Correct.
And Damian Lillard has been leading the league in scoring since January the 1st. I think up till the All-Star break, I believe from January 1st up to the All-Star break, he was averaging almost 40 and 10.
Yeah.
I think he was 38 and 8. And I had mentioned this before the season started that I thought Damian Lillard was going to play himself back into the top 10 this year. I feel like he has, but I think he's an All-NBA performer this year. I'm having a hard time putting 6 guards ahead of him on the All-League team.
I agree. So that means that Anthony Davis, you would still take Jaylen Brown over him, even though we said that there's no games played criteria.
That's tough.
AD's going to be eligible at center, just like Sabonis. So they're going to be fighting for the 3rd team spot, those 2 guys.
Joel, you think I'm crazy with this? I think Anthony Davis is going to make the All-NBA team, and he's going to make the All-League defensive team, too.
I think he's going to make All-NBA team, too.
Jaren Jackson All-NBA?
I wouldn't put him over. He's been playing amazing.
He's been playing unbelievable.
I don't know if I'd put him over Jaylen Brown, though. That's a question mark, though. That's a question mark. What about Julius Randle? Does he not get recognized in this?
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes. I knew it was coming, but yikes.
Oh, shit.
Well, he's at 26 and 10.
He's been great. He's been great, but he's just he's not with these guys.
Yikes.
Over Kevin Durant? I don't care if Jesus.
Yo.
I think the only forwards I can think of are Tatum, LeBron, Anthony Davis, maybe Jaren Jackson, but outside of that, Giannis. Outside of that, I think Jaylen Brown's he has a pretty good case over everybody.
And that's great news if you're
healthy. No, because Zion healthy. Nah,
no.
Yeah, healthy. No, but a lot of players are injured. We're going to talk about
Kawhi if he would have been healthy to start the season.
He's at 45 games, a couple more than Kevin Durant. I mean, those 2 guys could still make a 2nd team because they're top 10 players.
Yep,
Julius Randle's not top 25.
Julius is. He might.
I would take Jimmy over Randle
again. Yeah.
Is Julius Randle a top 25 player?
I don't think
No,
so.
not
I think
anymore.
this year he's either been top 25 or top 30 for sure. He's an all-star.
Yeah, but don't you have to like not shit the bed in the playoffs to be a top 25 player?
Well, he's
Don't
gonna
do
have
that.
his opportunity
Don't do
this
that.
season.
Don't do that.
True, he shot 29%.
He was
in a
bad.
series.
He was bad.
He was
bad.
horrific.
And that was 2 years ago, though.
It was.
I mean, that was 2 seasons ago. I mean, it wasn't like it was just last season.
He holds
Because
that.
if we doing that, we got to do the same thing with Jason
How
Tatum.
about you respect Julius Randle? He's one of the
I like
only
Julius.
players to play every game this season as an all-star.
I mean, games RJ
So
played.
you can talk all you want about Julius Randle, but he plays. He's available every single game.
He's durable.
That's why he has stinkers because he's gassed out.
It's like Tatum.
He's available.
Like Tatum.
Oh yeah, like Tatum.
Hey, he
I
plays
don't know if I
almost
say
every game.
that. You know what I'm
Missed
saying?
5 games.
All
over
right,
the
top 25, Julius Randle. You said top 25, top 30.
I think he's
I
top
love
30
doing
for
this.
sure.
All right,
He's
here
top
we go.
30 for sure.
Joel Embiid, Luka Doncic, Damian Lillard, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, Kyrie Irving, Trae Young, John Morant, Jaylen Brown, Lauri Markkanen, or Julius Randle.
I like Laurie, his fit on more
To
teams.
Randle's defense, he is 13th in the league in points per game. De'Aaron Fox, Julius Randle.
De'Aaron
Fox.
Fox.
LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard. Those are just names that we didn't name, but that are not eligible for points per game. Levine or Julius Randle?
That's
Randle.
close. I like Randle better.
Jokic, of course. Anthony Edwards,
Edwards
man.
is better.
Pascal Siakam.
I like Randle.
I would go Siakam.
I like Randle.
Paul George. I would go Paul
I'm
George.
going Paul George.
Jalen Brunson. Is he the best player on his team?
Jalen Brunson is better than Randle.
Is he? Are we sure about that?
I think. Yeah,
Are we sure? Now, what I want you to do, Joe, take off your fandom hat, and I want you to be objective here, right? You're not a Knicks fan right now, right? You're a basketball fan, and you watch the New York Knicks, and you see what they do. You see how important Julius Randle is, especially in the meat and potatoes of the games, his ability to rebound, his ability to play bully ball, how much they depend on him, and how effective Jalen Brunson is, and how ineffective he makes other people because he shoots the basketball as much as he does. So are we sure 100% that Jalen Brunson is better than Julius Randle? Are we confident in that?
I don't think it's 100% a landslide, but for me personally, what Jalen Brunson has done this season to open up Randle's game again,
No doubt.
I think shouldn't go unnoticed. And on top of that, Jalen Brunson has been our best fourth quarter player. He's the player that's closing out all of our games for us. In fact, when Randle is there without Brunson in the fourth, it looks like you want to rip your eyeballs out because he's always making an egregious mistake. Jalen Brunson is our closer, and he's the reason why we've been this good. I mean, since the start of the new year, he's been averaging close to 30 points a game.
So would you take De'Aaron Fox over Sabonis? No. Although you will say similarly to your argument,
No,
De'Aaron
I think it's
Fox is
close.
the fourth quarter. It is close, no doubt.
I don't know. I like De'Aaron Fox better than Sabonis. I do.
I don't know if I've ever heard that.
I think there's less
Come out of your
quality.
mouth.
I said it before.
Yeah?
Well,
I like De'Aaron Fox.
statistically, he is the best clutch player in the game.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, De'Aaron
So,
Fox is a dog.
He is the best clutch player in the game, and he is the engine that makes them go, right? In Sacramento, he speeds the game up for them. He opens up the offense for them, right? He gets Sabonis more involved than Sabonis gets him involved. So I might have to go with De'Aaron Fox, even though I love Sabonis, particularly as a glass cleaner, right? He extends plays for them, right? He's a big time dirty work guy. So I dig that about him. But I think that Fox is the engine that makes them go.
Hopefully he's healthy. He just had a hamstring injury last night against the Suns.
Yeah.
Comeback win.
I'm looking at the players. Julius Randle isn't top 25.
Not even close. in my
He
opinion.
isn't.
Not even
He
close.
isn't.
He's definitely top 30.
And the reason why I
He's
say
an all-star.
that is
Because you have
because
Garland, you have AD, who I didn't even mention. Kristaps Porzingis to Julius Randle.
Julius Randle's better, bro. Let's stop.
You putting Garland ahead of Randall?
I would put Garland ahead of Randle. I think I would rather Garland. That's the question.
Yeah,
I
rather
feel
on
like
your team.
I would rather have Garland on my
Fits-
team
fits
than
more
Randle.
places.
I don't know if I love it, but okay.
Jimmy Butler, that's another one. Bam
Okay.
Adebayo or Julius.
I like
I'll take
Julius
Bam.
Randle
Conversation.
It's a conversation, but I like Randle.
I'll take
come
Bam.
on,
That's
what are we
hard.
What do
doing?
you
Bam.
mean?
No,
The
don't
defender-
you like
the
Bam because of
defender-
his
the defender
defense.
Bam
It's
is,
harder.
bro.
Not.
It's harder.
Defender
Bam has no offensive game, bro.
Yes, he does. That's Joe. Don't do that. Hold on now, Joe. You got a 20. You got a 20 and 10 guy.
That's
What
better.
does
It's not
Bam do
Randle.
offensively
He's
besides
not- he's
shoot
not
layups
creating
and
like
hook
Bam.
Bam
shots?
has been the second
Nothing.
best player in the team that's went to the finals. And here's my thing:
From
the
free
reason
It was a
Randle
collective unit.
He was the
still the second best player
though.
and the best
Pretty confident.
defender,
Was
and
he
the,
the second best player? Goran Dragic was very
the second
impactful
best
in that
player.
run.
He's one of the three best defenders in the world. And the reason
He's one-
Randle is not top 25 is because when you're building a team, you would rather have Darius Garland or De'Aaron Fox because they don't take something off the table. With Randle, you have to build around him. And when you build around him, you're probably a first-round exit like you were in 2021. But with Darius Garland, because of his ability to play off the ball, and he's competing defensively, that's a guy you'd rather have in your team because he's a more complimentary
piece.
What
is the team with Bam Adebayo as their best player doing?
But as number two,
what they are right now,
that's a big difference.
They are
right now. They're first round exit with Bam Adebayo. They got swept in the first round with Bam Adebayo. They lost.
They did go to the finals with Bam Adebayo.
No, I know.
But it was Jimmy Butler.
It was a collective unit, though. And
He's
he's not a top 3 defender right now. I think Evan Mobley's a better defender than Bam Adebayo. Giannis is a better defender than Bam Adebayo.
Jaden McDaniels a better defender.
Jaden McDaniels is a better defender than Bam Adebayo. What are we talking about?
Perimeter, he got it.
Draymond Green's a better defender than Bam Adebayo.
Hang on. I'm not sure if I want to go that far.
Draymond,
Jaren Jackson, Giannis.
Well, yeah, I didn't even mention Jaren Jackson.
Jaren has to. Evan Mobley.
Jaren clears Bam defensively.
He's about to win DPOY.
27 minutes a game. 27 minutes. He can't
see what he's been doing recently.
He fouls out all the time. No, as a scorer, he really has been crazy.
If your center can play 36 minutes, that's a huge difference.
That's a big deal. That's a huge deal.
What seed did you have the Grizzlies before the season?
4 or 5.
Why? What was the big reason for that?
Jaren Jackson was going to miss the first.
Oh yeah, right. He's that impactful. He goes in, even with Ja being out, they have maintained the second seed in the West.
Take Bam off that Miami unit. They're a lottery team.
Hey,
no doubt.
That's a fact. They are a lottery team.
They're that right now.
They're almost a lottery team right now.
They are almost a lottery team. But when you talk about is the difference between being a better player and being more important and being like I said, an MVP or being more impactful. And Jaren Jackson, he anchors their defense. No doubt about that. Ja Moran he's the high flyer, right? He's the circus act. But Jaren Jackson is the dirty work guy. He's the rim protector. Now, his ability to stay out of foul trouble, that hampers them. Bam doesn't do that. Bam is a lot smarter, and we have to take stuff like that into account, that Bam does play a lot smarter. Bam is a better transition defender, I think, and I think he's a better one-on-one defender. I think Jaren Jackson's a better rim protector. I will give him that. But as a one-on-one defender and a transition defender, I think Bam is better than him.
I just don't. I think Bam, what he is now, is what he's going to be.
Well, he's gotten better.
He's amazing. Don't get me wrong.
You said he had no offensive game.
I mean, for you to act like he just clears Julius Randle, Bam has never been an All-NBA player, has he?
Are you saying
Jaren Jackson or Julius Randle?
I like Jaren Jackson better.
Okay,
but I think Jaren Jackson is better than Bam.
Zion, BI, those are names we did not mention.
I think Julius Randle is better than BI. What has Brandon Ingram done?
I don't agree with that.
Brandon Ingram, we get lost in aesthetics with him. We get lost in aesthetics with Brandon Ingram. What has he done? What has he accomplished?
Your Knicks bias is showing.
Julius Randle hasn't accomplished anything either.
He led a team to the playoffs and is an All-NBA performer.
They lost.
Okay, but Brandon Ingram lost in the first round too.
Okay, neither of them have accomplished anything.
Okay, but Brandon Ingram is why
he won more games.
Why is Brandon Ingram just
over? Won more games.
Why is Brandon Ingram just over Julius Randle? People have this idea of Brandon Ingram for the last couple of years because he had one MIP year. He's literally done nothing after that.
Because I think that's largely due to durability too. It's not because of his game, because he's been in and out of the lineup and he's been injured. So your best ability is your availability, as we all know.
Randle doesn't miss games.
And Randle does not miss games. And like we just talked about, the fact that we see you more as opposed to not seeing a guy, we start to watch you more and we start to get more accustomed to you. So to watch Julius Randle more, and even though we watch Brandon Ingram and we see the skill set, right? I see how athletic he is, his ability to score on anybody at any point, the transition player that he is, the long ball player that he is, the one-on-one player that he is, right? Offensively, what he does. I think Julius Randle, because we've seen him more and the bully ball and the fact that it's the Knicks, I think it helps his case, but I'm having a difficult time when he's healthy, putting him over Brandon Ingram.
I agree with that logic. I just feel like Julius Randle gets a lot of unwarranted disrespect. I'm a proud Julius Randle jersey owner.
Are you proud?
I'm a proud Julius Randle.
You weren't proud last year.
You want him gone.
And
that's
the thing. You said that Bam has no offensive game.
Yeah, just 21 a game, which
on
is good.
60% true shooting.
Okay.
Randle last year was at 50%. That's dog shit.
What about this year?
What is
compared to this year?
Is he better at true
He's
shooting?
at 58, which is still lower than Bam.
So why'd you use one of his bad seasons in New York and not his best one?
Because Bam is a lot more consistent. I also think Bam,
maybe this year,
Bam will never average 25, 26 a game.
How inconsistent was Bam last year?
Here's the thing. Number one, because of how great Bam is defensively.
No, you are nitpicking. Crazy. Listen, I'm not this huge Bam Adebayo fan either.
The difference here is that
like he just clears Randle. He doesn't.
Because, Randle's not a good defender. Bam is one of the best.
He's definitely solid.
I don't know about
Julius
that.
Randle
Yo,
is
stop.
I
He's
think that's a
solid.
good word.
Oh, you're talking about Julius. They're talking about
Yes.
Bam.
No, Bam is an elite
Yeah,
defender.
yes, Bam is
No, yeah,
elite.
he is.
Facts.
One of the best last decade.
Correct.
And
Oh,
Bam's
wow,
one of the better
okay.
playmakers. The
Why do
passing
you have
guy,
to work in
Why are you
extremes
just
too?
gassing him up?
because
Best of the
Bam,
last decade.
I look at
Are we
Randle.
serious?
Randle's combustible.
Is he better than Joakim Noah? as a
Randle
defender?
can be broken down emotionally. He's inconsistent. And the playoffs, I look at that Hawks series and I see, look, he's not much different of a player now than when he was 2 years ago. He just has Jalen Brunson alongside
One of the
him.
best
Which
defenders
is
of the
huge.
last decade. You lost.
Oh,
me.
without a doubt.
You lost me.
Why? I
Do you
just,
watch?
I do watch.
Now, when you say one of the best
Mobley,
defenders of the last, yeah,
There's
I was
not
just
a
about to-
defender that is more versatile in pick
Draymond.
and roll. Not a single
Say
one.
Draymond.
And because of how versatile he is, it's so much tougher for teams to get to the rim because he's an elite perimeter defender at
Evan Mobley?
6'9".
teams got to the rim easy on him in the
Mobley's not
finals
even as
series with LeBron and
strong
AD.
inside
The
though.
strong-
'Cause Bam's
yes, I
a
get
good
it,
post
but he's
defender.
also in year 2.
Well,
Evan Mobley's in year
that's
2.
what
and
we're
he's already
comparing.
doing
Year
this.
2 Evan Mobley to year 6 Bam. That's
Year
the
2 Evan
comparison
Mobley's
here.
better than year 6 Bam probably. You know Evan
Not
Mobley's a
insane
beast.
to say.
It's close.
Conversation.
It is close. Not insane.
Shout out
to
to
say.
Riv in the
Julius.
chat. Riv's making
Yeah,
the point.
Riv is
A
upset
lot of the
that we're
same
disrespecting
points
Bam.
that I'm making. That's why I'm going to
That's-
see.
he's a
I'm
Bam
trying
guy.
to
It's just,
educate
you know,
you.
it's
Bam
just
is
you-
an
you
awesome
make-
defender.
I know.
Mm.
You said
I
you
don't
lost me at one of the best of the
No,
decade.
it's the
Okay,
fact-
But he's
come on.
not even top 5 in the NBA right now.
He's not a top 5 defender?
I
What?
apologize.
What?
I made a wrong statement. Let me correct myself.
Okay.
please clean that up.
You said the last decade. I just gave you 5 that are, if not better than him, at least on his level.
Who are those guys again, Joe?
I said Anthony Davis, Evan
Okay.
Mobley, Jaren Jackson, Draymond Green, Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's 5.
Giannis, I can
Last
go
10
with.
years, Marc Gasol, DPOY, Tyson
You
Chandler,
lost me with that
I'm not
one.
taking Mark.
No,
I would
me
not
neither.
take Marcus. I would
Joakim
not take
Noah's
me
better,
neither.
man.
Joakim Noah, Tyson Chandler, Kawhi Leonard,
Why? That's another.
Rudy Gobert, Draymond Green.
Jaden
Hassan-
McDaniels.
Aside.
There it is.
Jaden McDaniels, first team all defense, but he's not a better defender than Bam.
He's not.
Come
What
on.
was going to be your last name, OG?
But during this time, I'm having a difficult time. Like I think you said Anthony Davis. I can get with him.
Yep.
Yeah,
Evan Mobley.
you said Evan Mobley. I think Evan Mobley's the defensive player of the year this season. To be honest with you.
Wow.
You said Evan Mobley.
Evan Mobley, Jaren Jackson,
Yep.
Giannis, Draymond.
Giannis, and Draymond. Giannis, I can get with Anthony Davis. I can get with Evan Mobley. I can get with Draymond. We can have a conversation about him and Draymond. And I'm having a different.
At least push back with Draymond, given the fact that
we can have a conversation about Draymond, because when I think about Bam again, you have to take emotion into it. Draymond gets thrown out of games. That's a big deal for your unit, right? So when I'm the catalyst, right, when I'm the anchor of my defensive unit and I can't control my emotions and I'm getting thrown out of important games, that cripples us. Bam is one of those guys that goes back to basketball IQ and being smart enough to know how important I am to my unit. So Bam, being the rim protector that he is, not just being the rim protector that he is, being the one-on-one defender that he is, I think he's just as good as Draymond Green as a one-on-one defender. I think he's more versatile as a one-on-one defender because he can guard not just the 3, he can guard the 4 and the 5, and he can guard on the perimeter too. So when you're chasing guys out on the perimeter 15, 20, 22 feet away from the basket, Bam can play that far away from the basket, especially in pick and roll. I think last season when they played against Atlanta, what Atlanta got themselves into was they tried to do what they did to Cleveland. They tried to do that to Miami, where Cleveland and both Miami, Evan Mobley and Jared Allen were trying to blitz Trae Young on a pick and roll. He was just blowing their doors off. Well, that's not going to happen with Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler. When they get the switch, he's basically trying to run. He's trying to blow by those guys. Bam, being the athlete that he is, he shut the door on that. So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about versatility as a pick and roll defender, plus being able to guard on the box, right? Yeah. And Draymond Green, we saw last night. Don't get me wrong, Joel Embiid bodies plenty of people. Right? There's not many guys. I watched him put 40 and almost 20 on the defensive player of the year in Rudy Gobert. So he bodies just about anybody. But I think going up against a guy like Bam will make it a little more difficult on him than what Draymond does. That's why I have to give Bam the edge, simply because of how much more versatile he is.
OG, you just enlightened us. Let's think about it this way. What did Trae Young do to the Knicks in 2021?
Embarrassing.
Smoked them.
It didn't have Mitchell Robinson.
What did
Don't
Bam
allow
out?
him.
That was huge.
Oh,
Hey Joe, is this new something else?
That was huge.
Hey Joe, is this new something else?
Rob Will missing time last year, so it's like doesn't exist.
what did Bam out
That
about?
was huge, bro.
What did Bam out about do to Trae Young
I'm
last year
sorry.
in the playoffs?
I
Let me think.
apologize.
We did Trae Young last year in the playoffs.
No,
No,
hell.
you're not
But
wrong.
it's like that.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
It's like
Shut
They
the
were
fuck
trying
up.
Trae Young, bro.
But Bam,
It wasn't
as
just
as
Bam.
a
They
6'9"
trapped
center.
him.
Yes, but
They were throwing
Bam-
doubles at him the entire
Bam
series.
did unspeakable things to
Can-
Trae
wait,
Young,
can
and
we-
you don't even
can-
want to
can we-
talk
can
about
we
it.
throw
I've
it
got
to-
all these
can we
Knicks
throw in
fans in the chat
context
saying
to that?
Bam
Can we
over
throw-
Reynolds and saying, "What do you watch?
Can
Do
we-
you watch basketball?"
Can we
Because
throw
I've watched
context
Julius
into this
Randle.
debate? Can we throw context to the debate? It wasn't just Bam. He wasn't one-on-one guarding Trae Young.
Well, he
What-
was
What's
in
the biggest?
isolation.
What's the
At
biggest
times.
reason why the Hawks' offense was inefficient last year? Because they lacked what? They lacked what? They lacked what? Say it. I want you to say it. They
I don't
lacked
know.
shooting, right?
Okay.
They lacked shooting.
It's like-
They lacked shooting,
Trae
so they
Young
were able to
sucked.
trap and double Trae Young the entire series. They put him in hell. They put him Rikers
They did.
Island because they threw 2-3 bodies at him the entire time. Even Damian Lillard struggled against that when he faced the Pelicans in the
That
first round. He got
does not
swept.
take away from the fact Trae Young is the Knicks' dad. Bam Adebayo is Trae Young's dad. That's all I'm saying.
All I'm saying is
It
that
Oh
he
my God.
refuses he refuses to ever give any Knicks players credit. That's my
He's
thing.
a Jalen Brunson guy.
Thank you.
I love Jaylen Brunson. I was wrong about him.
It's a
We'll come back and
He was wrong about a lot.
June
He was wrong about Josh
Right.
Hart. When the Knicks acquired
were
Josh
wrong
Hart, he
about
said
Josh
Josh Hart is
You
going to
were
be
wrong
nothing
about
for
Josh
them.
Hart.
He was really wrong about Josh Hart.
Josh Hart wasn't shooting well.
This is a Knicks bias you have. You have a Knicks bias.
We need
It's
someone
clear.
You know
upset
what?
you.
So Joel's
said-
on the
you said
Knicks
Mitchell
roller
Robinson.
coaster, right? So the way the
Mitchell
Julius
Robinson is
Randle
one of the
roller
best rim
coaster
protectors in the
works.
league.
The Randle roller coaster, we're at a high note right now.
Yeah.
When it comes down to the playoffs, you'll want him gone
So
the way
what
he
if-
did last
what
year.
if
as long
what
as
if he
Jalen
plays
Brunson's
well?
healthy, we're cash.
Wait, so what if he plays well? What if the law of averages he goes back and balances things?
If he plays well, then I'll adjust my opinion on him.
Oh, of course. So you're just going off and thinking he's going to play bad. I don't think
Well,
he's
you
going to
love
play bad.
always to say new information changes your opinion. That's what John's
Sure.
saying.
Randall's not going to play bad in the playoffs. I hope
No
you guys
way.
know.
Yeah,
He's
we'll
going to
see.
show up
No chance.
along with
no
Jalen
way.
Brunson.
No way. He has 2 or 3 stinkers, right?
Can we get back to like what was your issue with Josh Hart getting on the Knicks? Because I love that.
Well,
I didn't like
actually-
that. I loved it.
I hated it too, but the reason why SK couldn't shoot in Portland.
No, he didn't say he didn't like it. He said he loved it.
Oh, you loved it. So
I loved
gave
it.
the caveat: if he shoots well, this could be a great move from the Knicks. But he was shooting so poorly in Portland. I
It's
hate
like
the move.
30.
There was
33%.
no opportunity.
Well, I think the
When I
issue that
talked to you
This
about it,
game was different.
when I talked to you about it, you acted like Josh Hart, if he didn't shoot more threes, he wouldn't get back to shooting well.
I feel like the Knicks need more shooting. Hey, look, he shot the ball well, but
Well,
small sample.
You also got to remember too that I don't think that was the issue that the Knicks were having. Josh Hart may arguably be the best rebounding guard in the game. So in the process of him being the best rebounding guard in the game, he adds that dynamic to the New York Knicks, who are a gritty team. So him shooting the long ball, I think that's just extra to the other stuff that he brings. So when you get a guy like Josh Hart in your rotation, I think he enhances what the New York Knicks are doing. So when they got him, I was thinking, wow, that's really good for them. I didn't look at the New York Knicks going, what are you guys doing? I was thinking, Portland, what are you guys doing? Because you handed them over for a bucket of extra crispy and a six.
Reddish and
Well,
yeah.
That was
OG,
a
OG,
good
trust
trade.
me.
That was a
Cameron's been
great
doing this
trade.
thing.
but he's been Cameron. He's been inconsistent.
Wait,
Josh
hold on.
wasn't playing well for them, and they got a good young player.
OG, trust me.
In the first.
I was just at a poll that his opinion because there was a point in time where he was like, this might be the best trailblazer roster Dame has ever had. Look at Josh Hart. As soon as he comes to the Knicks, he's not going to do anything.
I love that.
He's not going to do
I
anything.
do love that.
Generational Knicks hater.
It's a low bar for Portland.
It is a low card.
So
So on to the next topic, OKC Thunder. Right now, they're 36 and 38. They're the 10th seed in the Western Conference, but the West fluctuates every other day. Sometimes they could be as high as a 7th seed. They were clawing at that 6th seed, but now the Lakers are now the 8th seed, celebrating. Everybody's celebrating over that, right? Great accomplishment. Just making a play.
Keep on climbing, boys. Never satisfied.
But what people don't understand about OKC that I think has to be recognized is that this has been a team that has been crucified for the way they've been rebuilding. They had a historic blowout loss last season. Everybody called them out. Draymond Green said the lack of veterans is going to hurt them in the future. But this team has rebuilt the best in the shortest amount of time. 2 seasons ago, they were in the playoffs with Chris Paul and SGA being the second best player on that team. And it all started in the 1920 season. They traded PG for Gallinari, SGA, and 5 first-round picks. And they finished 44-28 and took the Rockets to 7 games. And since then, 22 games they've won, then 24. But this year, with the ascension of SGA, Josh Giddey, Jalen Williams looking like a phenomenal rookie, the Isaiah Joe pickup, which has been really underrated for them, they have turned into a very competitive team. as the youngest team in the NBA right now. And I just want to get your thoughts on how this rebuild is going and how impressed you are with how fast they've been able to turn it around. John, I want to start with you because I feel like you have a lot to say on this subject matter.
There's not a team with a brighter future in the OKC Thunder. And the first reason, is because they have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who at 24 has played twice in the playoffs. I think people kind of forget with Shai that he started on 2 different playoff teams as a rookie with the Clippers and then as a sophomore in the Thunder. And he played really well in those 2 series. Mm-hmm. And shout out to Riv. Riv is one of the most staunch Shai Gilgeous-Alexander believers out there for due reason, because he's probably the best driver in the game, one of the best finishers. People always point out to his, pushy looking jump shot. Well, he's one of the best mid-range shooters in the game as well. 6'6" guard. Oklahoma City failed in the Kevin Durant era, building around KD and Russell Westbrook. They didn't put enough shooting around them. It's a lot of defense, but I think general managers, just like head coaches, and just like players, can get better. And when you look at Oklahoma City, I think Sam Presti, one of the best talent evaluators in the game, has learned from his mistakes of the Kevin Durant era, not putting enough offense on that team. So now you look at this new regime, this new iteration of the Thunder. You have Shai as the head honcho. You've got Jalen Williams as a rookie. He's got a very thick Rookie of the Year case. Then you've got Josh Giddey's playmaking. He's up to 16 points per game this year. And Chet Holmgren. And the difference with this Oklahoma City team is that every player they have, high character, but on the floor, they can shoot, most of them. They can pass, they can handle, they can make a decision, all of them. Read and react type players. Even Jalen Williams, the one they took in the second round of Arkansas, that's a million charges, he can shoot the ball as well. And so you look at Oklahoma City, they have all of the playmakers, all the initiators. Now they bring in Isaiah Joe. They've got Kenrich Williams. Kenrich Williams might be the most underrated player in the league. I think he is one of the most underappreciated role players that can do everything. I love Kenny Hustle. And so Oklahoma City has the fabric of a contending team with guys like Isaiah Joe and Kenrich Williams. And then you add in Chet Holmgren, who talked about in 265. Chet could be the best player from the 2021 draft class. We haven't seen him play, so we don't know. And so when you bring him and Ousmane Dieng into this equation next year, things get scary as shit in the Western Conference because they have the star, they have the head coach Mark Dagnall, who's got these guys to defend in spite of their youth, in spite of Jalen Williams being their starting center. They don't have rim protection, and they're still one of the better defenses in the league, right outside the top 10. The Thunder have lost the last couple of games. I don't really care. The fact that they are actually in contention to make the play-in tournament, things are getting ridiculous right now in Oklahoma City. And with that play-in experience they're going to get this year, the same way the Suns got it in 2020, and the same way the Pelicans got it last year, I think that's going to pay dividends next year when they get Chet Holmgren back and Shai Gilgeous goes into his 5th or 6th year.
So do you think OKC just banks on these young players, or do you think they make a move for an established player to help out?
Such as?
So I'm not sure. It kind of goes hand in hand into what I want to say, too, because I tweeted it and I had to correct myself. They still have a luxury of draft picks. Not as many as I thought that they had, but they still have an unbelievable amount. They have 1 pick this year because swap with them and the Clippers, so they're going to have the better of the 2. Yep. Then next year they have 3 first-round picks. There are protections on those. The
Rockets is top 4.
Rockets is top 4 protected. But regardless of that, I still think they have the Clippers and their own next season.
And Utah's.
That is insane.
They got that for Derek Favors.
So wait, do they have the swap next year also?
Which with team?
I'm saying for 2024.
The Clippers
yes.
pick? That is
That's
Clippers first round pick.
All right, so
it might be unprotected.
I know they have, so it's 3 2024. They have 3 2025, and then they have 3 2026. So I think that with the way that their roster is built, it's going to be really dependent on how does Chet incorporate himself into this offense, because it's evident they desperately need a big. And that was evident last night when Anthony Davis was killing them in the paint religiously. They need a big. And as good as Jalen Williams has been for his rookie year, Jalen Williams, the bigger Jalen Williams, the power forward.
Charge.
Yeah, not J-Dub. Listen, when I talk about Jalen Williams, I'm going to call him J-Dub. J-Dub is the potential rookie of the year. Then there's Jalen Williams, the big, quote unquote. When he's your big, that's when you have an issue. But that's when you insert Chet Holmgren, your lottery pick for this upcoming season, and then you could really evaluate what are we going to do with these picks. Is Chet Holmgren our answer at the big position, which it seemingly we do believe that? Is he going to be our defensive anchor down low? Is he going to be able to incorporate himself into pick and roll, pick and pop with Shai and Giddey and J-Dub for that matter of fact, because you can't forget J-Dub and what he means to this offense as well. His ability to create on his own, his ability to drive to the basket, be efficient as a basketball player. It's really dependent on how Chet comes in and incorporates himself. Because if Chet is not that answer, then they're going to have to try and go out and get a big, because that is essential to this team and how they want to be structured. But if Chet is the answer, why not just hold on to the draft picks and continue to trust your drafting abilities? Because Sam Presti, all he's done is draft banger after banger, and he's orchestrated one of the best rebuilds we've seen in recent memory. In my opinion, this is the best rebuild I've seen in the NBA, where you're trading superstars and you're gaining draft picks and you're trusting yourself in the lottery too. You also were very fortunate to receive a superstar, in my opinion, in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and to be able to have your foundational piece in SGA and properly build the team around him. That has been huge, and one of the main reasons why I'm so high on OKC, because Sam Presti has done such an unbelievable job. And I believe that if Sam Presti believes that it's time to offload these picks and receive a star, he'll make that move accordingly when the timing is right. But I believe that he's not going to play too quick. He's not going to play too quick trigger, because he understands what they already have is well ahead of schedule. 13th in offensive rating, 10th in defensive rating themselves. To be in this position where, yes, you're teetering and falling and rising in this wild play-in because of how close the West is this year, to even be in this conversation is impressive in itself, because no one prior to the season had them anywhere higher than the 12th seed in the Western Conference. So this alone is a success. But I think that with Sam Presti, the way that he has trusted himself and the way that the organization believes in him to make the right call, he'll know when it's time to offload those selections. But it's really predicated on Chet Holmgren and how he develops and incorporates himself into this team.
Did I hear you say? I want to make sure I heard I got the math right. That's 3 this year, 3 next year, and 3 the year after that.
1 this year.
1 this year. Okay.
3 next year.
3 next year.
The year after that.
3 the year after that.
And then
so that's,
yes,
they have 12 first-round picks from 2024 to 2028.
I was just thinking. So that's 7 ones in the next 3 years.
Correct.
Wow, that's pretty impressive right there.
Correct.
But with all of that being said, with the emergence of SGA, now what that does is that moves up the timeline, because we live in a free agent market, and the ability to hold on to your players, especially in places like Oklahoma City, New Orleans, Minnesota, these places aren't as prevalent as Miami, as Los Angeles. So what Oklahoma City has to do is they have to move the timeline up, and they've got to build these guys around SGA to show him that, not only are we trying to build a unit around you, we are progressing. Otherwise, he's going to be out of there, because places like Oklahoma City, Minnesota, Portland, New Orleans, you have to build it through the draft, because you're not going to get the big time free agents. So when you talk about a team like Oklahoma City building it the way that they're building it, this whole process with Chet, this is not, and I think, John, you just mentioned Chet being maybe the best player in the draft. That has to happen soon. Agreed. This isn't like a 3-4 year thing. No, this thing has to materialize pretty quickly. And the reason why it has to do that is because, again, you got a guy like SGA that you just extended, but I think you got him on the books for 2 more years before he becomes I think he becomes a free agent, or he has a player option after 2 more years, something to that effect. So the timeline has definitely moved up with Oklahoma City. But I think about rebuilding units, and I think the team that you guys left out that you haven't been talking about nearly as much is what Cleveland did. I think what Cleveland did is phenomenal. Donovan Mitchell is the oldest in that rotation. I mean, in that core, he's 26. Jared Allen's 24 years old. Okoro, 22. Darius Garland, 21. Jared Allen, 24. I mean, Evan Mobley, 22. They got a bunch of kids on that unit, and they're getting better and better every year. I think Evan Mobley is the defensive player of the year. I think I've already mentioned that. I think he's the defensive player of the year. And they got a lot of money, with the exception of, they don't have that much money. I take that back. They just extended Darius Garland, and they got right, and they got Donovan Mitchell on the books. So they don't have that much money. Let me rephrase that. They don't have that much money, but the way that they've drafted, right, and the way that they've traded guys, I think Cleveland has done a great job in rebuilding that unit. I think with Oklahoma City, however, I think the timeline has moved up, and I don't know how long this could last with Oklahoma City, because guys like SGA, when the time comes, if this thing isn't materializing, he could be out of there.
I agree with that point. I think Cleveland has done an amazing read, but I think there are a lot of teams in the NBA right now that have had impressive rebuilds. You look at the Memphis Grizzlies after the grit and grind years, they offloaded Mike Conley, then they got in Ja Moran, and they've rebuilded very, very well.
Jazz have been doing a very solid job in their
The
own.
Jazz are definitely good too.
Why is Danny Ainge not in prison? Can somebody tell me that? Why is Danny Ainge not in the penitentiary?
That's why
what is going on? For the amount of fleecing and the amount of stealing that he's done, why is he not in the penitentiary right now?
That's why I want to ask the question. What rebuild was greater? Danny Ainge with Boston after trading the Tea Party guys, or the Oklahoma City Thunder after moving off Russell Westbrook?
The Celtics,
in my opinion, for the fact that they already have two pieces and they've been to however many conference finals in that amount of years, it's got to be that trade, because you gave away an old KG, an old Paul George, and you received a top 7 player in Jason Tatum. You received a top 20 player in Jaylen Brown. You went to the finals. You did not win, unfortunately. You've been to 4 ECFs.
And don't leave out. I'm sorry, D. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
And don't leave out how they've drafted, to draft Marcus Smart, to draft to get Robert Williams in the second round, right? To get Grant Williams, right? To get Derek White. I mean, there's a multitude of things that Danny Ainge has done in order to make that team more viable. But the most important one is what you just mentioned. Like, he basically just sold Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce to Brooklyn, having Brooklyn think you guys are going to be at the top of the Eastern Conference. Basically, what he sold them, he cleaned up a 195,000-mile car and sold it to him like it was brand new, only except it wasn't.
Well, the Thunder, they turned Serge Ibaka into they traded him to the Magic and got Victor Oladipo plus Domantas Sabonis. They parlayed those two to Indiana for Paul George. They parlayed Paul George into Shea and a million first-round picks. So Sam Presti turned Serge Ibaka, a guy that they couldn't pay and they weren't going to do their tax implications, to 3 years, 2 years of Paul George and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, who, by the way, he's on his 5-year contract. Shea's going to be under team control up until 2027. Yeah.
Listen, I think the biggest thing for OKC is that if they build a great roster, they have to now be able to be willing to spend. Because the reason why they didn't keep James Harden on the team is because they weren't willing to spend, I think, $5 extra million more for.
I don't think they realized that James Harden was going to be that, though.
He was a better point guard than Russell Westbrook.
Pick. And on top of that, Joe, don't leave out the fact that losing James Harden, again, when you're talking about Oklahoma City at that time, they were the 41st market in the NBA. So losing James Harden at that time saved them $30 million. Now, that's a big deal when you're in Oklahoma City. That might not be that big of a deal in Miami or in New York, but in Oklahoma City, that's a pretty big deal. But later on, they end up moving off of Serge Ibaka because they didn't want to pay him. I mean, this is not pro football. I mean, or baseball. You're not winning on the cheap in pro basketball. It's not happening. You got to pay guys.
True. So I have a comparison here between young cores, sponsored by Mojo, because we're going to be using their share prices to do this. Mojo, you can invest into players like their stocks, and they have NBA now. So the first one up, we're going to compare the OKC Thunder's young core to the Magic and the Detroit Pistons. We only have graphics for the Magic, however. So, first up, SGA versus Paolo. Who do you think is going to be better long term?
God, why are we doing this?
I love Paolo Banchero. He reminds me of Antoine Walker, except a better athlete. I love everything about his game. I think he has a tremendous upside. I don't know how much more I'm going to get from Shea. I've always felt like, and I don't know if I've ever said this to you guys.
What more do you need? 24 years old.
Yeah, so he's 24. I've always felt by year 5, this is probably who this guy is. You're probably going to get some better seasons, but by year 5, this is what you should expect moving forward with this guy. Paolo, he just looks like a guy you could build your unit around, your entire unit around him. But with that being said, and to John's point, I think Doc Rivers turns over in bed every night the fact that he had to hand over Shea because he didn't want to hand him over. But for Kawhi Leonard, I understand it, but I don't think that he wanted to hand him over. I think that if he could have held on to him, he would have definitely held on to him.
He loved Shea.
He loved him.
If the Clippers still had Shea, they would have won. They would be, I think, a favor in the Western Conference currently.
With
That's
Kawhi
tough.
and PG.
They haven't had a reliable point guard, and what is Shea?
I'm not going to say wrong.
They wouldn't have
wins,
gotten
but they
that,
did
though.
not
So
win
SGA
that. They did not go to the finals or win the finals because Kawhi got hurt.
You know, that's what I'm saying. They should be the favorite.
Yeah, okay.
SGA, Paolo.
I'm gonna go Paolo.
with SGA.
I understand. I get it. I'm going to go Paolo because I see he's getting double, triple, quadruple teamed at times, and that's the reason why he's so inefficient. And people are really making a huge deal on this, harping on his terrible efficiency. but it's due to the lack of spacing and due to the lack of supporting cast around him. I think the Magic finally understand, hey, this is our guy.
Yep.
Let's not fuck this up. Let's put pieces around him that can actually space the floor, get him an opportunity to get to the rim. He needs to improve as a shooter, no doubt about it. But to be doing what he's doing as a rookie so far is wildly impressive to me. As great as Shea is, he is unbelievable. He is a superstar, in my opinion. To be averaging 31 on the efficiency that he has done this season with OKC, the overachieving that they've done.
Sure.
Credit to Shea. But Paolo showing this early is unbelievable.
And also for the price difference. Right now, Paolo, I'm looking on the screen, is $25 cheaper than SGA. So I think we all see it as neck and neck. And a $25 price difference, I think, is enough for me to say.
On Mojo,
Paolo.
on Mojo, it's no brainer because Paolo can be a top 5 player. Whereas with Shea, I think that's more unlikely. And so given he's $25 less, he's my age, he's 20 years old.
Super young.
Dude, I'm putting my money on Paolo to hit
Shea
that level.
is so good, though, man. His efficiency is stupid.
Now
he's not even a shooter.
Now we're going to compare the next group of young players: Josh Giddey versus Franz Wagner.
I'm going with Franz. With all due respect to Giddey, he's done a great job improving his game this season. Franz is just a better basketball player.
I don't know, man. Giddey makes it look so easy. He just makes it look so easy.
I don't know, but I know he had 27 points.
Yeah, he had a ridiculous amount of assists too. It's just if you're a bad guy, you're not looking at Giddey. He just offensively, he could put up 27, but it's going to be one of the ugliest 27 you're going to see.
Come on.
But his playmaking, I think, is just slightly puts him over Franz for me.
You know, Josh Giddey, I think he'll improve that jump shot to where it's respectable, 36% or more.
He needs that.
And he's already a phenomenal playmaker. I mean, the passes this guy makes,
7 assists,
is undeniable.
17 rebounds.
Oh, he's okay, word.
I'm going with Josh Giddey. I think he will be better than Franz Wagner.
I'm putting my money on Franz. He's only 1 year older than Josh, and he's $22 less. I think in Oklahoma City, Jalen Williams and Chet will become their second and third best players, and Josh will be more of the facilitator type. Whereas with Franz, he'll be the number 2 in an Eastern Conference where things can open up now. The Bucks being older, the 76ers, there's a lot of uncertainty there. If Franz is the second, let's keep it real, my friend. I said
Milwaukee.
Something. They're older. They don't have like any.
Barely.
None of their core players are under 30.
Goodness,
Brooke Lopez, I love. He's
How old's
34.
Giannis?
He's 29.
Brooke Lopez seems to get.
He's actually 28.
I was going to say
Brooks a free agent, though, I believe.
And Chris Middleton's how old?
Chris
32,
Middleton's
I think.
32, and he's
32.
starting to break down.
Listen,
Middleton's the
I
one
think
he's
we
looking
got to
at.
hold our horses before comparing the Magic to the Bucks.
Correct.
No, I say that.
But he's saying years down the line, 3 years from now.
Because you have Paolo, you have
In
Franz.
7
I get it.
years.
No, OG is right. Giannis is 28 years old, so I made a mistake there.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
with Milwaukee, I just think in 3 or 4 years they may not be a contender because of how old their
They'll
roster
be able
is.
to
As
figure
long
shit
as
out.
they have Giannis.
They're going to be able to
Sign
build a
it.
roster
I
around
say
him.
all of
Contender.
that to make the point. The Eastern Conference feels more open.
And the Boston
In the
Celtics.
West.
So this all to say that you're going
The
with
West
Franz
is
over
also
Giddey.
open, too, though.
I'm putting my money on Franz here. The value is too good.
It is
now-
really
It's
good.
not like
The-
there's this young team in the West that's going to run it for the next 7 years either. No, like if the East is open, if you're talking the next 3-4 years, the West is just as open too.
You know, you make a great point, Dehls.
There's not one team in Western Conference that we're looking at going, yo, they're going to be around for a while. There's not one.
Third comparison is J-Dub, Jalen Williams versus Markelle Fultz.
Yeah,
J-Dub.
End the conversation. Yeah. Respect to Markelle. He's done a great job this season. He's
been
at the
great.
highest efficiency of his career.
He came across as
He's an
roof.
excellent playmaker, has been a solid defender this season. With respect, just because of the injury history of Markelle, that is something that I cannot trust. J-Dub showing this much in the season, progressing as much as he has, his rookie season, being as efficient as he is, being as aggressive as he is as a rookie, there's a lot of promise there, and I'm just going to take my chances on J-Dub.
Do we have one for Chet?
No, there's no
No,
one
Mojo
for
is
Chet.
there, right?
Chet.
I'm
he's
gonna
not
go
one.
with Jalen Williams, but Markelle Fultz at $74, I think, is a steal.
It is.
Very
That
good.
is
I
very-
think he's starting to
very
become a
low-key.
very good player
He is.
in the league. He's starting to become healthy.
He has a role.
I think the last
Yeah.
time he was on the court, he was still a very good player.
Yeah.
It's just the unfortunate
Starting
truth.
point guard.
He just
Playoff team.
That's not crazy.
Well, he was. I was saying back in
Oh,
2020
sure, fair.
before he tore his. I mean, I'm taking Markelle. I'm $73. Obviously,
How much is J-Dub?
133.
He's double, basically.
J-Dub is going to be the better player here, but Markel's 53 games this year. That's the second most since 2020. He's one of the best defenders at his position. And I think with the Magic, they're not going to have a top 5 pick this year. They're going to be a playing team. it's more likely they take another win, I think, than a point guard.
Are the Magic
personally.
close to being a playing team?
Yeah, they're right in that mix. I'm not sure if it changes.
There would need a lot
I
to
don't know.
happen.
To be honest, I don't laser on the plan like that.
Got
But
it.
I think Markel is going to get better and better in due time. He's 24 years old.
Yeah. And a lot of this, because we've had a ton of Thunder talk, but it's also important to remember that this Thunder rebuild isn't over, right? It's honestly far from being over. So we're talking about these guys. SGA, we know how great he is. Chet, there's definitely a bright future, and what J-Dub's done this year is great. But we talk about 12 first-round picks over the next 4 to 5 seasons. So we could compare them to the Magic and even the rebuilds of, the yesteryears with like the Celtics, Grizzlies we mentioned. But this team, we don't really know what the end of the Thunder is going to look like in 2025, 2026 when either Sam Presti changes it instead of acquiring draft picks, going out and getting veterans if he's able to get a star or two, or just keep drafting, because it doesn't matter if they're drafting the lottery, they're drafting the middle of the first round. Sam Presti is going to hit on those picks. So as we continue to talk about the Thunder, this is a team that right now is young and up and coming and still good, but they still have such a far ways to go with all of the assets they've built up, not just the draft picks, but even like the guys who are really good role players like Lou Dort, who's one of the better defenders in the NBA, but probably isn't, solidified into that core like the Chets and SGAs and Jalen Williams are. They still have those guys that could still develop and be bench guys for a team that might be willing to or ready to compete for Western Conference Finals or championships 2 or 3 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
Before we go on to the next topic in the Blazers, a quick word from Athletic Greens. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/pickaside. That's athleticgreens.com/pickaside. And you guys can probably see that Drew has been using Athletic Greens. There was a reason why he wore a Lakers jersey. He wanted to flex those muscles on today's show.
No, I wore the Lakers jersey because we have to pay homage and respect to Anthony Davis, one of the best players in the National Basketball Association. Of course, absolutely. Credit to Santos.
When he said go, I thought he was going Santos. But
sorry, I'm talking about Anthony Davis. But yes, another go. Pick a side legend.
Santos a lot more reliable than AD.
I'm going to wait till we talk about the Lakers to tell my story about them. But shout out to Athletic Greens. I need a re-up because I haven't had Athletic Greens in a little bit. I had to steal the travel packs from Joel, but it's been paying dividends.
We couldn't get a mask, Jaylen Brown.
No, we could not.
That's messed up.
Because that's a dangerous man.
I want to ask you. So my brother has like digestive issues. He has OBS. Does Athletic Greens help with that? Has it helped you with that?
Oh, yeah.
Big time?
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it.
I've had those issues in the past. Fortunately, not now.
Yeah, everything's regulated, thank Christ. Because usually you have like the 1 day, 2 day that you don't go to the bathroom. Regulated. Drink AG, bathroom. Signed and sealed.
Nice.
Okay.
So we can quickly breeze by this Blazers topic. Damian Lillard is frustrated with the Blazers, and he doesn't want to be involved in another rebuild again. Because, right now, you look at the young players that have Anthony Simon, Shaedon Sharpe. Okay. They're going to have a top pick in the draft. They have the 6th best odds to land number 1 pick. So they're going to have 3 good young players, but that's not enough if you're Dame.
Stinks.
I think that you want to be a part of a competitor. But the question I want to ask to you, and I'm going to ask you first, OG, is do you think it's better for Dame to stay in Portland and continue to lose, or to change teams and fail to win a championship like we've seen other stars do?
I think that he's damned if he is, he's damned if he doesn't, because if he ends up on a great team, let's say with the Philadelphia 76ers with Joel Embiid and James Harden and all of those guys, and they're still there, and he ends up on that crew and they end up winning, well, the logic is going to be, well, he needed these guys in order to win. But if he doesn't and he stays in Portland, well, he couldn't do it there. So he kind of damned if you do, damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I got sucked into the logic last year when they signed Jeremy Grant that, this team might be a playoff team. And I'm thinking to myself, Dame's going to play himself back into the top 10. So I think that they're going to have an opportunity to do that. Only except guys like Simons, right? Guys like Sharpe. These guys haven't advanced as much as I thought that they would. And because of that, this has kind of been a setback for the Portland Trailblazers. Where this whole thing originated from at the end of the 18-19 season. When they went to the Western Conference Championship and got swept out of the playoffs, that was the time to make a move to build around Dame. Only except they ran it back. And in the process of them running it back, everybody else in the Western Conference got better. The Lakers got better. Houston got better. All of these other Memphis got better. All of these other teams got better. And they didn't. And since that happened, they've been going this way the entire time. So for Dame to stay there, right? So for Dame to stay in Portland, if the idea is winning a championship, it's not going to happen. So if he's going to stay there, it's just going to be him being a staple for the Portland Trailblazers, and that's it.
I look at the Blazers and I look at Dame and his options and what he could do. And if he stays in Portland, I think even if he doesn't win, he'll be remembered as one of the all-time Portland Trailblazers.
The best.
So he'll be remembered in their franchise's history. There's two extremes in terms of changing teams. I think there's a Russell Westbrook extreme where your legacy is just completely tarnished because of how many teams you've moved to that you've been scapegoated for. And some of it is his fault, but most of it I can say that it's kind of unfair. Or there's the Paul George one. Paul George left Indiana and he's probably going to fail to win a championship with the Clippers. He didn't live up to any standards in OKC, and nobody really cares, because he doesn't have as big of a cachet as a guy like Russell Westbrook.
I don't know. They were calling him way off P. They were getting
rude.
Pandemic P.
Yeah, bro. They were really rude to Paul George.
They were getting rude, no doubt, but I think that
I was one of those people, so that's why
when you talk about Paul George now, you talk about him as a positive asset for a team.
Yes,
which he is.
It wasn't
Russell
like
Westbrook.
That,
Russell gets extreme slander. It's two different extremes, and let me not say two different situations where Russell Westbrook is the extreme, where Paul George is not the extreme. He still got his fair share of criticism. Mm-hmm. Now, to speak on Damian Lillard and the Portland Trail Blazers, I told Joel straight up, why are we going to talk about this? What is there really to talk about? Because the Portland Trail Blazers simply are not a good team. Damian Lillard is an all-time great talent being wasted on an all-time great mediocre team. They're not good by any means, but with respect, Anthony Simons has been injured. Jeremy Grant is a solid player, but he's not really a number 2, not a number 3 on a championship winning team, maybe not even a playoff contending team. And that's with respect to Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant's a solid ball player, but let's just be realistic on who he is. Damian Lillard needs to do himself a favor and needs to get out of there, because I'm not one of those people that are going to hold it against you unless you're Kevin Durant for obvious reasons, that if you go to another team to try and make it work, where Dame has tried his hardest to stay with the Portland Trail Blazers, to try and running back year after year to try and compete for a championship. It's unfortunate that at this point in time, there are no players that you can rely on outside of Damian Lillard that are going to get the job done, that are going to make you a playoff team.
Honestly, when it comes to Dame, I'm reaching Bradley Beal territory in terms of
wildly disrespectful.
Wow. No, it's
just
not.
Makes, no, what do you
not
mean?
not the
what?
Because you haven't let me finish my sentence.
You said Bradley Beal.
Please finish this, because I'm really interested to hear.
Yeah, because the sentence is that Damian Lillard is always talking about how frustrated he is with Portland, and he's yet to want to leave.
Yeah,
Bradley Beal was the same guy where he's on the bench soaking after losses, yet he signed. I understand why he got his money, but I mean, goddamn, you're soaking about losing, and then all you talk about is wanting to win, and you don't make that decision for yourself.
I say this: I think Bradley Beal was more money oriented as opposed to Damian Lillard, who is clearly focused on winning.
But Dame,
why?
Huh?
How?
Why is money oriented? He's comfortable oriented. He wants to stay in Portland.
But I think he wants to stay in Portland to be one of those guys. How we look at Kobe, how we look at Dirk, how we looked at Tim Duncan. Obviously, these are different level players, but but a lot of respect goes on their name because they stayed with one franchise, like a lot of historic greats, and they were able to accomplish that ultimate goal.
To that logic, Dame we know is a great player. Bradley Beal has went on interviews and said he wants to be that for Washington.
Yeah, but
it's not that
level of guy that Dame is.
He's not the level guy, but he still wants to be that. That's why he took on that challenge and stayed in Washington.
He's been wildly quiet.
So I'm just saying we cannot talk about Dame and be like, I'm tired of giving him the benefit of the doubt, bro. How many off seasons have we talked about him leaving? And he's not requested.
He doesn't want to.
It's not going to happen.
It's not a him thing. It's a matter of, hey, are the Blazers finally?
It is a him thing because he can definitely request a trade.
And they would.
I guess you're not wrong about that. I guess you're not wrong about that.
And you're expecting the Blazers, especially if around the question is these next few years with Damian Lillard, you're expecting the Blazers to do something they really have never done. I mean, this is an organization that even before the CJ days, when you just had Dame and LA there, right? Yeah. They were consistently first round exits. Every once in a while, they'd get to the second round of WCF appearance here and there too. But they were consistently first round exits for the most part, right? And that just shows you that you're not there. You're not ready to compete. If you're not consistently making either the finals or Western Conference finals, there has to be something in your roster that you could change, that you can upgrade to. And obviously, as the years went on, they moved off LA. CJ got in and, they had some good years there. But the same issue came up that they were always going to be short, whether it was the Warriors, the Rockets. There was consistently teams that were better than them, and the front office never really had a sense of urgency to go out and make this roster better. And now you look at how it's currently constructed, where you mentioned some of the names, like you have Simons and you have Grant and you have Shaedon Sharpe, and Cam Reddish had some moments here and there too. But you have guys that, in theory, you could put a pretty good trade package together to go out and get another superstar, but you're expecting the Blazers organization to do something that historically they have never done. That's why this conversation gets boring, because it's basically, we already know the answer. Damian Lillard's not going to request a trade, and it seems like a long shot the Blazers can do something to shake up this roster.
That's the thing right there. We know he's not requesting a trade. Therefore, in turn, I am done feeling bad for Dame because he doesn't win. Like, I'm not at first.
I don't feel bad for him.
At first, when you're not winning games, and okay, I understand your talent is being wasted on a poor team, you get the benefit of the doubt. But once you've been there for years and you understand what the organization is, and you refuse to request a trade, I'm done feeling bad for your talents being quote unquote wasted, because ultimately Dame's ambitions are probably, of course he wants to win, everybody wants to win, but his ambitions are probably just staying in Portland and being recognized as the best Portland.
I
don't think that's true. I don't think that's
if that was the case, he would coast to his 25, 28 points per game. But instead, every single night, he's going out there trying to outscore the opposing team by himself.
I think Dame's ambitions.
For sure.
I want to try to make this conversation, like, it is a boring conversation, but Dame's ambitions are so much larger than Portland's. But because he is so loyal to Portland, they are so just at ease. They're cushy. They feel comfortable. And that's why they haven't had much aggression. He hasn't put pressure on them as a team. And so I look at Portland. The reason they suck and they fail to build around him again, it's not offense. It's defense. You brought in Chauncey Billups and you ranked 27th in defense. Last year, you were 30th. The year before that, you were 29th. The last time they weren't in the bottom three defensively was 2019 when they went to the conference finals. And Dame played poorly, ran out of gas in that series, because the last time he played with an All-Star was LaMarcus Aldridge, and I was in the 6th grade. I was in the 6th grade the last time.
Okay, so you're talking about Chauncey Billups. Dame co-signed that Chauncey move.
Yeah.
He co-signed him as coach.
Because it sounded like a good idea, Joe. It really did sound like a good idea at the time. We're talking about a lead guard, and the majority of good coaches that played in the game are point guards. So it did sound like a good idea initially. But to John's point, we're talking about a Portland Trailblazer team that masked that they don't have a rim protector with gang rebounded. That's why Josh Hart was so important to them. So because they didn't have a guy, they had Nurkic as their best rim protector. So because they didn't have the rim protection, they masked it a lot with Lillard, with Hart, with Sharp, with Grant, with these guys gang rebounding to make it look like they have rim protection, when in reality, they don't. They are one of the worst defensive teams in the game. And in the process of them being one of the worst defensive teams in the game, the other teams in the Western Conference have gotten so much better defensively, right? So because they've gotten so much better defensively, that hampers what Portland is going to do. Now, I'm not going to tell you that Damian Lillard, well, he's taking all the money. Well, what championship team in the NBA doesn't have a super max or max guy on their roster? Everybody that has a championship contender has a guy that's making a lot of money. So I don't think that that's the case. But the fact that they just let LaMarcus Aldridge walk out the front door, that's a fireable offense, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah. LaMarcus Aldridge is very good. And he went to San Antonio because he wanted to basically replaced Tim Duncan there.
He just walked out the front door, Joe. They didn't get anything for him.
It was
they just let him go.
But I'll combat that point you made, OG, not about Aldridge, but about Chauncey Billups, by saying when the Nets first hired Steve Nash, it was also good in logic.
Right, sounds like a good idea.
Coming here, yet when Steve Nash didn't pan out as a coach, we criticized Katie and Kyrie for co-signing that move instead of bringing in somebody like Tyronn Lue. The
criticism was Kyrie saying, we don't need a head coach. I could be the head coach. KD could be the head coach. That was the criticism.
That's what usually people want in a player's coach, though. I understand that's the criticism, but the criticism was also that Steve Nash was the guy that got the job. That when he first got the job, there was a huge controversy whether around he should deserve it. Yeah. So that was a controversy in itself. We saw that Steve Nash didn't pan out. So Katie and Kyrie got blamed for him being coach. The same way Dame co-signed Chauncey. Chauncey doesn't look like a good coach. And nobody's saying that about Dame's decision-making and him co-signing certain moves. All I'm saying is that, yes, Portland has failed to build the roster around Dame, but we also cannot exonerate him from complete blame.
No.
Like, he hasn't been to the conference finals versus the Warriors without KD, the team that everybody expected Harden and the Rockets to just breeze past, and they got swept, although they were up double digits in every single game in that series, and Dame was terrible.
Yeah. The biggest difference, though, is those Nets teams, the talent was never the issue.
Joel,
right? The Blazers are different.
The
Blazers are different.
That's what it really sounds like. It really sounds like.
Nash, that Nets team is one of the best rosters we have ever seen. That's why it was never like with the Blazers. It's the Dame doesn't have the players.
Well, the Nets would have won if Harden never got hurt.
Dehls, thank you.
That's
Yusuf
the biggest
Nurkic
issue.
is still their starting center. That's an issue.
Okay, I
in the year
understand that.
2023.
But also, to begin the season, the Blazers were a top defense because they played that 2-3 zone with
But that
Grant
was
at
a
the top of the
gimmicky
key.
style that wasn't going to translate long term.
Of course,
that
but
zone
they
defense.
they started
that
to
was,
see, that's
they
why,
were top 5.
That's why you were fooled by the
you and I
Blazers.
had the conversation.
That's why you were fooled.
We're on Pick a Side. We're gonna have an award show. One of them should be the biggest overreaction. My overreaction was thinking the Portland Trail Blazers could be good defensively, and I was fooled. I judged a 10-game sample size. That look, I got too
You
excited.
asked me, could
But-
they make the conference finals?
Oh God, when was this? Like
He
October?
asked
This was October.
when they started off well,
And what'd
when
you
they were
say?
the first seed in the West.
What was your answer?
I said no.
I said
no.
it was still too soon, but that was a question I asked because this was a better roster in theory with Jeremy Grant playing so well. But here's the other thing. Damian Lillard is this generation's Reggie Miller. The difference is that in Indiana, he had Mark Jackson, he had Rick Smits, he went to the conference finals 5 different times. He
That team was
lost,
great.
and he lost in 3 different game 7s in the conference finals. He was knocking on the door. He went to the finals in 2000, but with Dame, the Western Conference has been so much more competitive, and not only that, but at the highest levels, he didn't have that type of support. Portland's looking at this and thinking the same way the Pacers built a contender on Reggie Miller in his last season with those guys that brought him before the Malice at the Palace incident wrecked their season. That's what they're looking at, saying we can do this with Dame. And the reality is, for as long as Dame stays there, they're not going to be able to execute that because they need defense. They need proven, developed players that usually aren't rookies, usually aren't young guys. Anthony Simon's not a good defender. He's terrible. Shane Sharp, he's young. He's not going to be a good defender for a few years. All of these players that the Portland Trail Blazers are trying to bring through the draft are offensively centric. They're not good defenders. And so for as long as they try to take these big-time swings in the draft, the only way they're going to actually hit on this is if they draft Victor. If they get lucky enough at the end, that's the only way they're going to find some realistic outcome to gain to that level.
And I think it's also important to note that Anthony Simons is not a 2 guard. He's a point guard.
And they're falling for the same exact thing over and over again.
And when Dame is not playing, Anthony Simons is averaging 28 a game, and he looks like
He's shown he
a
can
goddamn star.
He's shown he can have
Solid
that.
playmaker.
And it also doesn't help, John, that the guy at the center of this team that you want to be defensively oriented is not a defender. You don't have that problem with Jimmy Butler in Miami because he sets the culture of defense. So
Are you talking about Dame not being a good defender?
yes.
Well, he's got to drop
him
35.
not being a good defender doesn't help him.
How many superstar point guards were good defensively over the last 20 years? There's only one that comes to mind for
I
me.
can tell you guys who try.
No.
Steph Curry tries.
Sure, but good point guard defenders, when teams are going to attack you as the franchise piece, that's Chris Paul, and that's it.
But that's why they got Jeremy Grant. That's why they got him in the trade.
Well, like the data.
Next topic.
Over the last 20 years? Is that what you just said? Over the last 20 years? Okay, over the last 10. I can...
No, because last 20, we could think of like Chauncey Billups. I'm talking about superstar, like offensive supernovas. How many of them have been elite on defense as well? You don't find that.
No, you don't. Mm-mm.
You don't find that. Well,
I mean, Jason Kidd is the last one I can think of over the last 20 years.
That's fair.
Because Chris Paul's the only one that comes to mind to me. Like an offensive, like the offense that's also good on defense.
Chris Paul, too.
yeah, Chris Paul is definitely up there. I wouldn't put Russell Westbrook there.
No.
Mm-hmm.
His on ball's not bad, but his off ball's horrendous.
True.
This week in the NBA, this week in the NBA is Luka Doncic talking about how he's frustrated, and I think it has more to do with off the court things. I hope that things off the court are going well with Luka. I think this was always a concern with Dallas, though. And the concern with Dallas is that by getting Kyrie, there's always room for this to be an absolute disaster.
It's going to be a problem. You knew it. At some point, you knew that this thing was going to fall apart on some level. Don't get me wrong. It sounds like a good idea in theory. And when Dallas first got started, I don't want to take up any more of your time, Joe, but when Dallas first got started, I'm thinking, all right, this could work. This is the guy that Luka needs, a guy that he can just go to for buckets, and he can take plays off offensively. He doesn't have to be responsible entirely for his offense. He's got a guy who can be that. Only except Irv has been in and out of the lineup. Not only has he been in and out of the lineup, that team is terrible defensively. Yeah. Their logic is, I think what I equate it to a punch-drunk boxer. I think I can hit you more than I could stop you from hitting me. And that's who the Dallas Mavericks are. And it just hasn't been working because you gave up your best perimeter defender in Finney Smith. So it just has not been working in Dallas. I don't see it. I don't see it getting any better. I had them as a play-in team before the season started, and it's kind of looking like that right now.
It is. And the thing about Dallas is that at their ceiling, things were going to look way better. I think offensively has not been a problem. Like you mentioned, they're able to keep up offensively. When Kyrie and Luka are on the court, they're not bad. But before Kyrie got traded to the Mavericks, I made the take of saying that Kyrie, for one, every team he's been on, he's ruined. Whether it's been the Cavs requesting a trade, Boston, Jaylen Brown in his recent interview even said that when Kyrie was in Boston, they did not see eye to eye at all. They were at odds with each other the entire time. And that's because Kyrie was trying to play this mentor role, and Jaylen Brown just wasn't vibing with it.
He quit on them in that Bucks series, too.
And Kyrie Irving leaves Boston with the Nets. They're playing well. We're talking about them healthy, being contenders, and he requests a trade mid-season. I mean, come on, what's going on here? He ruined the Celtics and Nets rivalry that we had going on.
It was never a rivalry. We went 10 in a row.
But then when it comes to the Mavericks, and I said this too, this move for the Mavericks is going to be the final move they make in this Luka era. I think that if this move does not pan out, Luka Doncic is going to request a trade out of Dallas. I think Luka Doncic in his early years, with how the Mavericks have failed to build around him, reminds me a lot with LeBron in his first stint in Cleveland. I think that Luka Doncic is tired of it. And frankly, it's not just I don't think the duo is a problem. I think that it gets brought up as the biggest thing because of everything around it that's going wrong. Jason Kidd has not been a good coach this year.
No, yeah, I was going to
been terrible. His lack of his unwillingness to play Christian Wood when he's clearly a top 4 player on the team is ridiculous. Maxi Kleber being hurt also hurts them. Josh Green getting inconsistent minutes when he's earned his spot. Jaden Hardy only recently getting minutes to play when he's played. He's been amazing. Mm-hmm. Jason Kidd has not been a good coach. And this is a team that last year defensively, they were a top defense. This year, they're a bottom 20 defense. I think it has to do with the voice in Jason Kidd probably not adapting year to year. So that's a major issue. Luka has been hurt. He's been in and out of the lineup sometimes. And Kyrie Irving is just somebody that, yes, he has these supernova games where he's super efficient, but he also has games like last night where he's shooting 1 for 8 from 3 and he can't hit anything. And that was early on when KD got injured in Brooklyn. Kyrie Irving, his first couple of games without KD, was super inefficient. Then he went on a tear, but that's Kyrie. He's just inconsistently consistent.
Kyrie's not separated to be the number 1.
He's not. And I think the Mavericks, this was their move. I don't think it was an all-in move because Dorian Finney-Smith, Dinwiddie, they are not needle movers. They just gave up them in a pick, so it's not huge. They didn't trade the house for Kyrie. But if Kyrie leaves in the offseason, which we never know what Kyrie's going to do, this sets Dallas back a couple years.
Go ahead, OG. Let's talk about your this week in the NBA.
The Lakers.
Oh, man.
The Lakers this week in the NBA. We're talking about a team which, ironically, as good as they've been playing, I think they won their last 3. We're celebrating the Lakers being 500. Like, we're actually celebrating that, which sounds
claps nuts.
I can't believe that we're actually celebrating the Los Angeles Lakers being 500. I mean, Anthony Davis has been really good in this stretch, and since James has been out of the lineup, they've been good, but they do need James. The problem that we're having with this Laker team is they rely way too much on James, and I think him being out of the lineup now, I think when he gets back in the lineup, he sees how they've been playing, that they don't have to rely on him as much. So remember when he first got on the unit with Anthony Davis, the idea was to play off of Anthony Davis. Now that he has Russell, right? Now that he has Beasley, now that he has Vanderbilt, and the way Anthony Davis has been playing, these guys can still have the dominant space, and James can be more of a facilitator and play off of those guys and make them a lot better, as opposed to him now coming back and averaging 30 a game. Well, if he's averaging that, if he's having that kind of offensive output, that means he's shooting a lot. That means he's shooting the basketball a lot. And if he's shooting the basketball a lot, those other guys, Beasley, Russell, Vanderbilt, those guys, Lonnie Walker, who looked great last night off the bench, those guys, they probably aren't engaged in the offense as they can be. I think defensively, Anthony Davis makes them go, and I think he could keep that up. I think once they get James back, I think he could help them, and I think he's going to implement himself more. He's going to integrate himself more into what they're doing, as opposed to coming back having to be the savior.
Oh, gee. It's great to hear you talk about the Lakers. It really is. And let me just get this clear. Let me just set things straight. Let me say that. No one's throwing a party over being 500. What we're doing is acknowledging where we started to where we're going. And it's about where we're going and where we're trying to reach, which is obviously the NBA Finals and that championship. But it's we celebrate these minor pieces to the season because I remember very vividly when there was a time, OG, that we were supposed to give the Pelicans Victor. I remember very vividly when we were the 13th seed, and that's all anyone ever brought up in conversation, similar with the 11th seed, which is not too far away, granted how close the Western Conference is, but slowly but surely, we've been creeping up. So to talk about last night's game really quick, because I understand we have a lot of the show to go over. Again, yes, I'm wearing my Anthony Davis jersey that our boy, our legend, Santos Lopez, was kind enough to buy for me. I was hesitant to throw his jersey on, to be honest with you, because ever since I received this jersey, Anthony Davis was not playing up to Anthony Davis standards, to be honest with you. That Magic game really pissed me off, where thankfully Austin Reaves was able to get to the line as much as he did. And Austin Reaves saved Anthony Davis. He did. And I was upset at AD, and I was thinking, you know what? He needs me. Let me throw this jersey on. I went out, put the jersey on, watched the game. He was absolutely phenomenal. 37, 15 for 21 from the field. He put on a sensational performance, and as he should have. OKC doesn't have a big that can stop Anthony Davis. He had to be aggressive, and he was. But what's amazing about this, and as the Lakers continue to climb.
Hey, John, are you really buying this, John? Because it looks like he's laying it on, John. Are you really buying this, John? I mean, because it's like peanut butter. He's just laying it on. That's what he's doing. But I'm listening. Go ahead.
I'm fine with it, which is why I'm fine with people like Joel and my friend Riv and Joel, who Mr. Flipaside Jr., no doubt. What I'm fine with, OG, is that you're going to die on that hill that the Lakers aren't good. The same hill that you're going to die on that Anthony Davis, you're over him. You're done with Anthony Davis. I'm fine with this, OG, because it's going to be even sweeter when you're on the show the next time.
Yeah,
the Lakers are continuing to climb. And now,
I just want to make sure that we get this clear. Drew, because again, I think Anthony Davis is an All-NBA performer this year. I think he's an All-League defender this year. However, I think that the Los Angeles Lakers, their future this year is dependent on the health of Anthony Davis. And I've seen more than once, more than twice, him break down. And I think that's going to be the difference in how far that they go. And I'm not sure he's going to hold up. That's it right there. It has nothing to do with the past.
I don't like to do that personally. Because right now what's happening is Anthony Davis is healthy and he's thriving. He's playing successful basketball. I'm just going to worry about what's going on right now.
Right.
Playing great basketball without LeBron.
Right.
And that you mentioned it, right? We're very reliant, or had been previously relying on LeBron James well too much. And we're winning basketball games with LeBron being sidelined. And is probably going to be sidelined another week or two. Mm-hmm. That's what's most pleasing to me watching these Lakers. We're winning basketball games without our best player.
There's two ways you can look at this. The positive is that earlier in the year you were losing these games. Now you're winning. Mm-hmm. The negative is the 3 years of evidence of Anthony Davis being injured 47 times and just turning 30 years old. And we start to scratch our heads a little bit at this is something we can mass produce long term.
We can be oblivious.
We can be oblivious, but championship caliber teams got to stay healthy, kids. Agreed. Survival of the fittest. But for Los Angeles, they're playing some of their best basketball. 3-game winning streak. They're taking some pretty big steps forward.
Talk about him.
He's awesome. What else?
Second best defense in the last 15 games
for a long time.
Right behind Milwaukee.
Your defense is at the top of the league, top of the Western Conference when those two are on the floor. Speaking of another guy that's been killing it, Luke Kennard last night, 10 of 11 from whatever it was.
Yeah, he went crazy.
30
10 of
points,
11,
just one missed shot attempt.
So this week in the NBA?
That's one of my this week's in the NBA. He is shooting 54% from 3 in Memphis, a team that lacked a lot of 3-point shooting. Wait, so did I make a mistake?
No, you're good. I was just going to do a Grizzlies this week in the NBA. I thought you said you had something else.
Just Luke Kennard.
Right.
I have one more this week in the NBA. Is that cool, Dehls? Cool. So the second is Spencer Dinwiddie recently did an interview on Bleacher Reports, and he was talking about his time in Washington. It was a strange time. It was when he went off the torn ACL, and it's like, we had Rui Hachimura, who was struggling with some personal stuff. You have Denny Avila. Shit. It was supposed to be the second coming of Luka Doncic. I thought when I came in, I started playing. I was like, shit, you can't even make a transition layup, and now we're here. And I thought that was hysterical because Denny coming into the draft was supposed to be the first overall pick the summer before when he was playing Maccabi Tel Aviv. I don't know how to pronounce it properly. And then he fell to the 7th. What was it? They were in the top 10 of the draft. And now he's playing relatively well in Washington, but he's not the Luka Doncic that they would have hoped. So I thought that was very noteworthy from earlier this week.
To just piggyback off Drew, because I get labeled Mr. Flipicide Jr., even though I've been
Mr.
Flipicide I've been the most outside of you, the most supportive Lakers person at this table all season long.
I disagree with that statement because the last time we were talking about the Lakers, bro, you were just like, I kind of cheated between Drew and Joel.
And that's more respect than anyone else has given you at this table.
Riv is obvious. He's also another Flipicide.
Well, I think that Dehls he gives you credit without jumping to exaggerations like you do.
Am I jumping to an exaggeration?
I think that's
what's my exaggeration?
Talk
to me. What's the exaggeration?
You have a blind spot here.
The blind spot is that I'm oblivious to the health of the Lakers.
That's the analogy I like. OG had another analogy before the show about how high are on the Lakers. OG, do you have that for us still?
Well, again, we're talking about Drew, who is huge on Anthony Davis, who is basically a Bentley, but it looks great, but the tires are going to pop. At some point, the tires are going to blow. And you know that the tires are going to blow because they've blown before.
OG, you're better than this, man.
But what you do is we're going to roll anyway. We don't even have a plan on how we're going to get there. We don't have a plan on what time we're going to get there. But you know what? We're going. We hope that we get there. Meanwhile, these tires that you're driving on, they've blown before. And this is where we are now with Anthony Davis. And we're going off of hope. We hope that this guy holds up.
And prayer.
But what are the odds that he's going to hold up? The odds are he's probably not going to hold up.
Why are you doing this, OG?
It's just historically.
OG, I'll be honest with you.
Not the best track.
The vibe you are throwing out right now is disgusting.
The reason, and you have to understand, Drew.
The possibility of him getting injured. We only wish the best for these players.
Absolutely, we do. Do you think that I want to see Anthony Davis hurt? The last time Anthony Davis was healthy in the playoffs, the last time Anthony Davis was healthy in the playoffs and James was healthy, they won the NBA championship. That's the idea, to stay healthy. Only except what has happened over the last 2.5 years. Over the last 2.5 years, he's faltered. Not his game, but his health. They lose. You guys were up against Phoenix. He breaks down in the playoffs. If he's healthy, you guys beat Phoenix. Easy. And I think you got a really good shot at going deep into the playoffs. Last year, he missed half the season, and you don't even make the playoffs. That was detrimental to you guys making the playoffs. Here we are again. I think he missed 2 months. Now you guys are battling to get into the play. Now you guys are battling to get a playoff spot, even though I think as of today, you're a game and a half out the 5 spot, but you're also a game and a half out the 13 spot.
Unfortunately.
So your team's success is contingent on Anthony Davis staying healthy. And that's the thing that I'm worried about more than anything. I'm not worried about his game because I've seen him when he's locked in. When I seen him when he's healthy, I've seen him go off. I've seen James put the battery in his back. I've seen coaches put the battery in his back and him get ready. The question that I have is, can he hold up? And that's the thing that I'm worried about more than anything.
So talk to me, OG. So if Anthony Davis is healthy, then am I delusional?
The Western Conference has a huge problem. I'm not saying that they have a problem. They have a huge problem because, again, what was the plan moving forward when Anthony Davis showed up? James was going to play off of him. Not only did it work, we won the NBA championship. So then the next year, we're going to continue this theme, but then it gets switched up. We're going to move Anthony Davis to the 5, and now he breaks down, and now it becomes something completely different. Now we're in a different space with Anthony Davis. They're moving him around in different spaces. Not only are they moving him around in different spaces, he's able to play in different spaces,
Correct.
both offensively and defensively. And that's why he's the most effective. The difference is that he's missed 25, I think he's missed 25, 30 games. That's been the difference, because if he can give you 60, 65 games, I think you guys are sitting pretty at the 6th spot, which is where I thought you guys would be before the season started. I thought you guys would be in the 6th spot. But the fact that he breaks down the way he breaks down, it's really difficult to rely on your boys to actually make some noise.
LeBron is the one who's out right now, and Anthony Davis has been the one that's had to shoulder that load. Of course, LeBron's had a laundry list of healthy seasons. I'm not worried about his durability, but of course, he should not be in a position where he needs to be relied on this much.
Right.
But it's for lack of a better term, bothering me that your main claim on the Lakers is Anthony Davis' health when LeBron is not playing. LeBron is the one who's injured right now, and Anthony Davis has had to shoulder the load that he's had, and we're winning basketball games. Right. We're in a better position than we were prior to LeBron getting hurt.
Also, can this continue, though, Joe? Can this continue, though, Drew? That's the $1 million question. I'm sorry, Joe.
But that's what I'm wondering, and that's what I'm asking you. I said, if we're healthy, what is your thought process?
No, I think that's
if the Lakers are healthy, do you think they can go to the finals?
I think that they got as good a shot as anybody.
That's it.
I think they have as good a shot as anybody in the Western Conference. The thing that I'm concerned with is, can Anthony Davis hold up? That's the $1 million
back, and he's going to be fresh. He's just going to be having a month and a half off, right? Anthony Davis is the one, like you said, shouldering this workload. He's been the one having to put in the minutes, even though he doesn't play the back-to-backs all the time. You need Anthony Davis healthy, and you also need him to be playing to his full extent, because even during this time where he's without a doubt been your best player, he has nights where he doesn't look, as urgent or as physical as he should be, being the presence he is.
Or to add to your point, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, or he doesn't play in back-to-backs, because a prime example would be, I'm trying to imagine Hakeem Olajuwon going 35 and 15 and being a healthy scratch the next night. And they're in a playoff race. That doesn't help us. But we're worried about this guy breaking down, which is why he's a healthy scratch. When he could go to management and go, yo, I'm ready to go. You can play me. We need this win. But he doesn't do that because, again, they're worried about him breaking down. That's my biggest issue. It's not his game. That's not his game, Drew. I want to make sure we're clear on that. I have no problem with his game. I think he's got 9 35, 15 games this year. The Lakers they've lost one time when he's played like that. Once. That's it. So when he's playing like that, the Lakers are in contention to be that team. Only except he's the key component in that is he's playing. That's the most important part.
So Dehls, you have a Grizzlies, would you rather?
Yep. Yeah, I was going to say he had that, like Anthony Davis has those 30 and 20 games, then he comes back the next day and he drops 8 and 9, right? So
I'm talking about, man, what are we doing here? What are we talking about?
35 minutes.
Here's some good news. Lakers with the Mavericks falling off a cliff for the 8th seed right now. Yep. 2 games away from being the 4th seed in the West.
Yeah.
Here we go. And the Lakers, since their 2-10 start, are at 35 and 27, which would rank 9th best in the NBA. Now, you take away everyone's worst 12-game stretch, things look a lot prettier. But obviously, with all the player movement they've had, players coming in and out, it does seem more important than others. I was going to talk about for my this week in the NBA, the Memphis Grizzlies, who Ja Morant's been back the last couple of games, coming off the bench, but looks like Ja Morant missed 8 or 9 games, but doesn't really look like he has lost a step. They've won 5 in a row. A couple of these games are against the Rockets and Spurs, to be fair, an overtime game against the Spurs. But the Grizzlies have been one of those teams in the West I feel like we've talked about the least outside of the Ja Morant instance. We have the Jokic MVP stuff, the Lakers constantly, the Warriors shuffling or going in and out of contention. Kings love. We always talk about all these teams, and the Grizzlies are kind of just sitting here as, listen, offensively in a half-court set, you could have your concerns, but out of the contenders, it's them and the Suns with KD that really only play defense. So we know defensively in the playoffs that could take you a long way. In the fact that Jaren Jackson has improved as well offensively. You have Desmond Bane there too. So they could be one of those teams in the West that have really not gotten any, talking time, at least on pick a side, that has really started ramping up in these last few games. Now Ja Morant's back. And if they're going to play top line defense, better defense than everyone else in the West, this could be a team we're sleeping on.
One thing that we really don't talk about is how Ja's absence from the team has benefited Jaren's offensive mind at least, where he understood that someone needed to shoulder the offensive load. Yep. And Desmond Bane is a consistent scorer in his own right. That's why Riv and I are consistent when it comes to scoring. The number 2 option is Desmond Bane. But with Ja's absence, Jaren understood I have to be more aggressive. If I want to be the true Robin of this team, I need to assert myself as being one of the better scorers on this team as well. And he's done so. And this is beneficial, especially come playoff time, because Jaren now knows, hey, I should be a little bit more aggressive because I'm still a very skilled offensive player in my own right when I want to be.
Yeah.
So if we have three scorers that we can rely on in Desmond Bane, John Moran, and of course Jaren Jackson, with this defense that they do have, no doubt about it, Joel, you're 100% right. This is a strong contender.
Jaren's not making his threes, and he's still averaging 28 points in his last 6 games. The Grizzlies can go to the NBA Finals.
Push it.
Anyone
the West is wide
the
open,
West
maybe.
is wide
It is.
open. The West
And
is wide open.
we need to talk about that more.
They could beat the Lakers for sure in the first round.
Because John Morant last year detonated on the Warriors. I'm
Praying.
sorry.
Keep praying.
Golden State could not guard the man.
Because that Wolves, suddenly the Wolves and the Lakers are the same record.
Well, that's not really a good
Anthony
thing.
Edwards
Cats
got
missed way more
No,
games than
and
both LeBron and AD.
LeBron's missed time too. And AD. They both
Cats
missed at
missed 5
separate
months.
times.
And they're also integrating 2 key pieces in. The Grizzlies have the best defense in the West, one of the best superstars offensively. Ja gets better. They have one of the better coaches, one of the better benches, maybe not as much without Brandon Clark, but the Grizzlies are getting the most important thing, and that is Jaren Jackson's offensive step forward. He's getting off those 2 injuries. I think it's only a matter of time before people really start to give them the appreciation, because this team is the second best in the Western Conference the last 2 years.
I mean, that's all it is. I mean, I think all people ever wanted was for them to play at this level and not talk like they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. That's it.
Well, that's who they are. That's their identity.
Or the
I like a team
disdain.
that chats.
The disdain for them only comes from them thinking they're a dynasty.
I get you're a
already.
Knicks
only
fan, so the
person-
Hawk
yeah.
stuff still rubs you off
Oh,
the wrong way.
now
But
you're
the
talking
NBA,
about Knicks.
the NBA,
Oh, yeah.
We need
Oh my
this.
God, John.
The only
He's a defender of every single West contender. The Nuggets, the Suns, the Grizzlies. My God,
This
pick
is
one.
this is you towards the Celtics. This is exactly what I deal with on a
yes,
consistent
because he went
basis.
from the
But I
Nets
throw-
to
I
the
throw facts.
76ers to the who was the other
He's
team?
not throwing
Yeah,
facts
he
right
went
now.
Nets,
What facts
Sixers,
are incorrect?
Knicks for a little
I
bit.
just gave you a bunch
He's
of.
on the Bucks now.
There's no way
Yeah.
that the Bucks are losing to the Celtics, bro.
That's his newest one.
What was not?
There's
facts?
not. I mean,
Well, I know it just it
Bucks
started.
lose
It
to
just started
Celtics?
with
I
the
know.
Nets. It was don't forget the Sixers. The Sixers without a
Oh
doubt in
yeah,
there.
I mean the Sixers
Bucks,
definitely.
the
Over.
Nets.
Yeah, I mean,
You said the Knicks.
I mean, we know. I mean, OG and I have had conversations before that. We know that if James Harden is healthy, Sixers win a championship.
Oh, gee.
I think they had a really good shot at winning the whole thing if James Harden had been healthy, but
Oh, the
He
Nets.
wasn't.
For sure.
they had a really good shot at winning the NBA. I think they were 15 games over 500 when him, KD, and Irv were in the lineup together, something like that. Yeah, but the fact that James Harden, number one, he came to camp out of shape. Not only did he come to camp out of shape, he was hurt the entire season because he was out of shape. This season right here in Philadelphia, probably the best shape that he's been in recent history that I can remember. So
2019.
yeah, I'm thinking maybe 20. I'm thinking maybe 20. Yeah, maybe 2019. This is probably the best shape that he's been in, and this is probably the best opportunity. That's why I'm not really concerned that much with him. You know, with what I've seen with him, you know, this 20 and 10, because what I need to see from him is how this translates into the playoffs. Because I've seen him. I mean, I think he's got 5 seasons in Houston where he averaged 10 assists and 20 plus points. I've seen that from him.
Yeah.
4 or 5 seasons where he's done that. The problem is that when he gets to the playoffs, he underperformed and he breaks down. And the reason why he breaks down is because he doesn't take care of his body. This is the one season that he's been in probably the best shape in a long time, in a really long time. But to your point about the Memphis Grizzlies, I don't think we talk about, and you brought it up, John, Luke Kennard gives them a different look offensively. Because his ability to shoot the long ball, that speeds up their offense. That spreads their offense out even more. That gives guys like Desmond Bane. That gives guys like Ja Moran, even Jaren Jackson Jr. That gives those guys even more opportunities to score because you got to honor a guy like Luke Kennard, especially in transition. So when you got a guy who can knock down long balls like that in transition, that opens up their offense way more than it would if just Desmond Bane was cracking the long ball. I think he had 10 threes last night.
10 for 11 last night.
Yeah, something like that. So, yeah.
Grizzlies lack shooting. He definitely helps that. It's been a while since we've had a Would You Rather on the basketball episodes, but we only save them for special occasions. OG's on the show. This is a special occasion.
There we go.
And recently, there's been a player that is probably getting the benefit of the whistle a little bit too much, in my opinion.
Uh-oh.
And
Who's that player?
The guy who got to the foul line 4 times yesterday is getting the benefit.
Oh yeah,
of
the NBA
doubt.
noticed that. Listen, we gotta stop sending him to the
Just
line because
couldn't deny
they're
Adam-
catching on to
Adam
us.
Silver's been on
Last
that
2
this year. The
games.
red stuff, now the free throw stuff. They don't want
So
to know
now,
that.
Austin Reaves, would you rather have some really spicy names on here right now? This is would you rather Austin Reaves edition, first name up, Russell Westbrook.
Reaves fits on more teams.
Russ has been great for the Clippers.
Exactly.
He has been. He's been fantastic for the Clippers. Yikes. I think Austin Reaves fits better with the Lakers than Russ.
He does.
For sure, without a
oh
doubt.
no, for
Yeah.
We're
sure.
talking strictly Lakers. Without
The issue is that the Clippers needed a guy
just
that can
fits better.
rebound the basketball, that has a high motor, that can, now that Paul George is going to be out, needs someone that can be aggressive in trying to score the basketball. Russ is going to fit that mold perfectly. But for the Lakers, it was a rough fit because we didn't have shooting. We had no shooting. And when you have a team that had Russ, AD, LeBron, it's impossible to space the floor. So I think I still would go with Russell Westbrook.
Mhm.
But for the Lakers, that's a no-brainer. It's Austin Reaves. But I still have to give that respect to Russ.
Right.
I'm gonna go with Austin Reaves here.
Westbrook's a better player. Reaves fits more teams.
Correct.
Hey, Westbrook's been a lot better than a lot of people give him credit for with the
Yeah.
Clippers, but Reaves is playing better and better, and he fits the perfect tertiary piece. I'd rather that player.
I think that Austin Reaves can be a championship level role player. I don't know if Russell Westbrook can do that, but as the player, it's obviously Russell
What is
Westbrook.
this? Would you rather?
I would rather someone that's going to get me to the championship, be a high level
Well, there you
role
go.
player, and that's Austin
That's
Reaves.
Jordan Poole.
I'm taking Austin Reaves.
What?
No. No.
I knew he was going to say
surprised
that,
at
but
that.
it's
No.
how did he have to think about Russell Westbrook? But Jordan Poole, it's just
No.
I'm taking
Jordan
Austin
Poole is the epitome of
Reaves.
inconsistency.
Jordan Poole is
Oh
better than
my
Austin Reaves.
God.
He's already proven to be a championship level role player. By the
Yeah.
way.
I don't care.
On the Lakers, on the Golden State Warriors, in Boston, he can do that.
And also, Austin Reaves' defense is phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
No, it's not.
It's really good.
Average.
phenomenal. It's closer to average.
There was
Hey, Drew. See, this is how you start when you
One
start
second.
this, Drew.
Before you
This
yell
is
at-
what I'm talking
before you yell
about,
at
Drew.
me, let me
Get that.
of the top 10 perimeter defenders, I believe that Austin Reaves was like 6th or 7th percentile. 6th or 7th on that list.
Jokic is 1%.
Hold on, John. Is this dude trying to sell us that Austin Reaves is arguably a top 10 perimeter defender in the game? Is that what you're trying to sell us right now?
Not a top 10, but that's what the numbers tell you.
Like he's in the conversation? Is that what you're trying to tell us?
No, he's not, but he's still a very
So
good
Jokic
defender.
is
in his
an
own
elite
right.
defender.
See what I'm
Number
talking about, yo? This is
Fine.
Drew. I'm on your page until you start this nonsense, Drew. I'm on your page.
I'm tired
of
people
you using a
exaggerating
stat to say
Jordan
he's a
Poole.
phenomenal defender. He's a fine defender.
He is a fine
He's
defender.
all right.
He's a better defender
All
than
right,
Poole.
all right.
He's
a
not
better
a
defender-
liability.
I'm
he's a better
sorry that
defender
I'm on
than
a
Poole.
podcast that semantics is everything to us.
Oh,
I
Drew,
apologize.
phenomenal and fine.
It's a really good defensive player.
This is not
Is
semantics.
fine and really good defensive player the same to you?
Fine and really good. No, fine is we'll settle for that. Really good is this guy's awesome.
He is awesome.
Those two things are not the same
Okay,
thing.
he said phenomenal.
He's a good defender.
He
He's
did
a
say
better
really
defender
good.
than Jordan Poole, without a doubt.
Hold on.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go. Shout out. The NBA's best perimeter defenders in 2022-2023, according to B-Ball Index on-ball defensive metric. Jaden McDaniels, who's been unbelievable this year, 98th percentile. Aaron Holiday was 58th. Javon Carter was 95th. Austin Reaves was 73rd.
There
So
are things
Aaron
called
Holiday's-
outliers. Austin Reaves is a decent defender. He's got a knack for the ball, set some charges, good hands, but he's not on the same level as Jaden McDaniels.
No, he's not.
I'm taking-
No one said he was.
So Aaron Holiday's a top 5 defender.
No, he's a solid defender, though. He's a very good defender.
So then Austin Reaves is a solid defender. Then.
Austin Reaves is a very good defender.
Austin Reaves is
No, see,
he's all right.
He's
I'm
closer
telling
to
you,
average.
He's really good.
He's all right.
He's above average.
All right.
Above average.
you like that one better, Drew? How about
He's not
above
a
average?
liability.
How you feel about that one, Drew? How about above average?
Far from liability. Above average is fine.
You like that one?
You know what that Drew's off when Dehls not stepping him to defend him.
He's a
I'm
better
taking-
defender than Poole.
I'm taking Jordan Poole. Upside's the thing. He's already been a key role player in a championship team.
Yeah. And he's younger than Austin.
He's also a year
Yeah,
younger.
His
Yep.
his upside is
Oh,
substantially
he's
higher
just
than
being better
Reaves.
now anyway. RJ Barrett.
I would rather Austin Reaves.
I love RJ Barrett. I'm sorry. I love RJ
I'm
Barrett.
taking RJ Barrett.
Yeah.
Oh man, I think I'll go RJ Barrett.
I think
too.
I would
You don't
go
mean that in
RJ.
your heart.
I
'Cause
would
we
go
had this
RJ.
conversation on the playback, and you understood exactly what I was saying, and you were agreeing with me.
RJ,
I don't know, man.
I'm
RJ
stunned
is
He
to
just
hear
just,
you
has
say
RJ has
RJ.
to find his role. He has to realize he's not going to be that guy.
Again, it's better players are the guys you're naming. Who I'd rather. Jordan Poole's the only questionable one. I can understand where you're screaming and yelling at me, but he's too inconsistent for me. I'm getting consistency
What?
from Austin Reaves.
we're talking about right now. Chris Paul.
Oh, I'm saying Chris Paul.
I'll take Chris Paul.
I'll
I'd
take
say
Chris
Chris
Paul,
Paul
yeah.
because he's just one of the better offensive initiators.
He's got the easiest job in the NBA right now. As him and Grayson Allen have the easiest job in the NBA right now.
That's a fact.
Jaden Hardy.
Ooh, maybe the steal of the 2022 draft.
I'm
After
going with
Walker
Jaden
Kessler,
Hardy.
of course.
Hardy's
Yeah.
a bucket.
Jane Hardy is very good.
Yeah,
He's 20 years old. I'm going to go with Hardy, but
Hardy's upside. It's also a small
Austin-
sample size for Hardy. You got to remember.
yes, but he should have been a borderline lottery pick in my eyes. Austin is a more complimentary player, whereas Hardy is the perfect spark plug, it seems like, off the bench. I don't know. Shit.
The sample size on Hardy's still super small, but you do like the upside you've seen off that limited sample
Man.
size.
He's led the Mavericks to some wins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably
Um,
more than Luka and Kyrie.
Where'd you go with, Joe?
I'll be honest. To be completely transparent, I'm not all too familiar with Hardy's game like that. So I'm not going to lie to the audience here. I guess just off that alone, I have to go Austin Reaves, but I am aware of Hardy and what he's been doing, especially while Luka was out and the few games that Kyrie missed. When he has the opportunity, he's been able to really show out. But that lack of opportunity and the lack of consistency for that, still being a young player, I think Reaves right now is very conscious of his role. He excels in his role. So I'm going Reaves.
Austin's played 1,000 more minutes.
This is your guy, Dehls. Derek White.
Derek White.
Derek White's been balling this year. He's been our third best player.
I'm going with Derek White too. Jalen Green.
Jalen Green. Yeah.
This shouldn't be a question.
It should
He's a
have
better
been.
player. He is a better player.
Well, it's not only that; it's that like with RJ's in the worst situation for his skill set. Jalen Green, similar story. So I feel like because of the upside,
Is it?
But he gets to be.
It's
the
such a
offense.
free Jalen Green. RJ, no doubt, it's the worst situation. I say Jalen Green's not so much because it's such a
Do whatever you
crab
want.
shoot, whatever the hell
sure.
you want to do offense. That
Bunch of
should be
crabs killing each
perfect
other.
for him.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have that true point guard that can get into his spots also. So I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But in this specific scenario, Jalen Green should be able to do whatever he wants and continue to excel, and at least
sure.
to statistically he has his nights, but it's too inconsistent.
And it's the last name I'm gonna go with, and I want to really hear your answer, OG. Christian Wood.
Oh, definitely Christian Wood. I mean, he was up for the best rotation player in the game. He should be starting on that. If he's not starting on that Dallas team, he should be playing way more than he's playing. He's a lot more effective when he's on the floor. And I don't understand why Jason Kidd doesn't implement him more, not just offensively, but defensively too. He's not a great defender. I think Christian Wood is probably average, but I think that his ability to rebound makes up for that. Because you do have guys who can you had guys who could defend, like you had Finney Smith, you had Spencer Dinwiddie. So the fact that having Christian Wood, his ability to rebound, I think that trumps the other stuff, and I think he could have been on the floor more. I don't understand why he wasn't playing more, and I still don't understand it.
I agree. I'm going Christian Wood too.
Defense in your center is a lot more important.
He's shown Flash to be a good rim protector for sure.
So-
Wood, yeah, but he has to stick in the post and like everywhere. You can switch. That's about it. I might think about Austin Reaves here because Wood's a lot more replaceable.
Huh? Reaves is not replaceable?
I think both can.
Respect Austin Reaves.
Austin can
bro.
do a lot. He's shooting 70% at the rim. He's shooting 50% from mid range.
How many bigs can stretch out the floor and shoot 40% from three?
A good amount. To
Name
stretch
me
out the
name me
floor.
six. Name me
All right,
six.
Jaren
Six.
Jackson, Brooke Lopez, Anthony Davis, not at a high level.
No,
No,
Anthony Davis
no,
cannot.
wait.
No, he.
Miles
40%
Turner.
from three.
Al
Like,
Horford, Miles Turner, Al Horford,
Miles
Joel
Turner
Embiid.
cannot shoot like what?
Yes,
Miles Turner shoots like 30% from three, bro.
This year is in the
he's
30s,
not been good,
higher
but
30s.
look at the history of Miles Turner. He's been a solid
Nah, he's
three-point
shooting
shooter.
37%. I'll give you that.
Okay, thank you. Joel Embiid, Jokic. How many more do you?
Maxi
want?
Kleber.
7.
Maxi Kleber's a
Bro,
big.
he
that
cannot
could
shoot like Christian Wood, bro. Come on, let's be honest.
Fair. Okay, we'll take him out. That was a joke.
What's Porzingis shooting this year?
Porzingis for
Yeah,
sure.
Great
He's,
one.
he's
And Carl
That-
Anthony Towns.
Carl
That-
That's another one. There you go.
You're listing all-star players.
You just name how many are there? I just gave you.
I know, but like after the all-stars, there's very few
Evan
rotational
Mobley.
guys.
We haven't mentioned
Evan
Mobley
Mobley shoot the
can't-
way he can. No, but he still can stretch.
No Mobley.
he can't.
No, Mobley. We'll take him
He-
out. Put in Bobby
occasionally.
Portis. Bobby Portis.
Bobby Portis is the only one that's
We have to
comparable
think of
him as a role
guys that are
player.
taking over 2 or 3 attempts per
You're right.
36.
Mobley
Like,
does not shoot
a
that.
Velez takes one.
Porzingis.
Porzingis for sure.
That's
Randall,
fair.
does that count?
Sure.
Nah, Randall just shoot like 33% from three.
But the volume is a lot though.
I know he gets hot. Definitely,
You are obsessed
He
with
gets-
Christian Wood a little bit. I think
I'm not
If you're
obsessed.
not going to give
Here's
me
the
Randall,
thing.
You're obsessed.
Christian
with that
is
shot.
34% from three.
I'll put it like this.
I'm honestly curious.
Okay, I'll show you.
Like
right now.
36%.
Austin Reeves can start on
Christian Wood
championship
shot
teams.
37% from three.
That's great.
You think he's that good? You think
Austin
Austin
Reeves
Reeves?
can start
You
on
think he's a
championship
starter
team.
on a championship team?
I
Wow.
don't think
going to be the
Christian Wood
OG,
can't.
I'm telling you, if the Lakers
Oh,
go
no,
to the
he can-
championship,
no.
OG will be excuse me, Reeves will be starting.
Yeah, but Christian Wood can't be a
Mm.
championship team. And I think with Reeves, he's getting better and better and scratching the surface what he can be offensively. In terms of level scoring, he's a good playmaker. It's not just
Yeah.
the Giants helping him succeed so much. It's that
Facts.
he doesn't have a limitation. He's
Right.
ambidextrous, can finish, can shoot from all 3 levels. I think Austin Reeves can easily be a starter.
So
he could be a third best
The
player
thing that
on a
bothers me.
contender.
the thing that-
What? Oh,
Joe, he had me at the
my-
starter spot.
Yeah,
Then you lost me. Then you lost me.
You
when
lost.
you
That's
went there.
crazy to say.
Yeah, you lost me when you went there.
Anthony Davis and LeBron James, if they're contenders this year, Austin Reeves will be the third best player. I don't know why you're making a big deal about that. Okay, fine.
D'Lo.
D'Lo.
All right,
So,
this is what I was
easy.
going to say.
But yeah.
Our lineup,
Easy.
God willing, we make it to the championship, would be D'Lo, it'd be Reeves, LeBron,
Your laugh got me.
I'm blanking.
God,
Troy
goodness.
Brown.
Oh, no, Vando, AD. No, Troy Brown become
I
off
just
the
think
bench.
D'Lo's been benched before in the playoffs. If he is off the floor, I think they could still win with Austin Reeves
D'Lo
as
has
a
been
combo.
phenomenal, though.
Okay,
Has
you're
been
at-
great.
This is the same thing as a
you're
Randall
right, you're
coaster.
right.
It's the Randall coaster,
It
the
is.
D'Lo
Right. I'm not
coaster.
gonna
You're
say
at the
that.
high. When it hits
All
the
right.
fan, shit goes down.
have a
I
question
think
for
Austin
you.
Reeves will
I have a
start.
question for you because I got laughed at.
Yeah.
Jordan Poole scores the basketball better than Austin Reeves. Correct. Easy.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. Does he do anything else better than him?
Yeah, I think he can play make as good as him.
No
Mm.
way.
He's better-
in
he's better
hell.
than
This,
shot
so this
creator.
is weird because
You wanna
scoring.
count that
Everything's scoring. I give you everything scoring is Poole.
That's huge though. But I
It
think
is.
the
But
thing, when you
defense,
mention
passing,
when you mention scoring though, like
Right?
It's
That's
like
what I'm
gravity
saying.
almost.
It's like with scoring, it's like you're generalizing scoring when there's so many
You're right.
facets
I
within
agree
it.
with you.
Like he's a better
agree
three-point
with you.
shooter,
He puts
mid-range
more
shooter. He's
pressure
a
on the
better
defense.
finisher.
He is a
puts
better
more pressure on
three-point
the
shooter.
defense.
Not
He's a
that
better
Reeves is
ball
bad.
handler.
He is a
can be
better
wild,
ball.
but
He has a
yes.
better bag.
Yes, he definitely
He has a
does.
better bag.
He's a better
but
ball handler.
He can be
Reeves does
wild.
not turn the ball over. Correct.
Yeah.
Poole turns the ball over.
And
a lot.
the shot
Well,
quality is definitely a lot
I'm
better
just
for
saying,
Reeves.
listen,
Jordan has a lot more gravity. I don't know why you
Yes.
guys are laughing so much at the Austin be a third best player and a contender
I
because
just
he's
feel like
gotten
he's had
better and
like
better.
10. He's had like 5
That's
good
a
games.
hey John.
Come on, bro. What are
Just
you
take it
talking
from me. Strong statement.
Very strong.
Strong statement.
But he's getting better and better.
He is. Oh, you don't have to tell me. I
Historically,
acknowledge that.
we
But
can
it's-
we can literally go down a list of historical NBA champions and let's take that third player and he also is not compared to that guy.
Fred VanVleet.
When on the Raptors?
Oh,
Fred
come on.
VanVleet was not the third best player on that team.
Go
No,
back
he
and forth. It was like a.
It was actually what was that? What was it? Siakam.
Siakam was two.
Siakam was 2.
Kawhi won. Lowry was 3.
Let's
Lowry
use the
was
Lakers. 2021. The Lakers' third best player was who?
Rajon Rondo.
Yeah.
I mean, Rajon was great.
However, let's be clear, Drew. Playoff Rondo is a real thing.
No doubt. That's what I'm acknowledging.
Right.
For
That's a real thing. I want
Like-
to make sure we clear on that.
Rondo had hit his peak at a certain point.
the
With
one
Austin, he's
outlier,
24.
Oh man,
Reeves is really good. That's a strong statement, though,
Come on,
John.
bro.
He's solid.
He's a championship level role player.
Well,
I
he
get it.
is.
I'll give, yeah.
And I got laughed at
No,
that a
I
couple
think-
months ago.
No, you said
but I'm
starting
glad-
shooting guard.
which he's going to be if the Lakers make it to the playoffs.
Is he better than Drew Holiday?
Hell no.
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
I just think Austin Reeves is a lot on the ball. He's
Is
not
that
just a
wrong?
role
Joe,
player.
is that wrong? You understand Reeves is starting for
He
us.
reminds me a little bit of
It
Joe
could be wrong.
Ingles,
If they
but
don't-
he can do
if
a
they
lot
don't
more.
We
off
have
the
to
dribble.
go.
LeBron,
We have to go, yeah.
You have to go first. Yeah, I don't.
So
think
who was the third best? Was he better than Andrew Wiggins?
No way.
no.
No,
Wiggins
no.
probably was the second best player on
Yeah,
that
probably.
team last year.
So it'd be
Wasn't better
Draymond. It would
or
be
Clay
Draymond
or
who got
Draymond.
benched.
Was he-
Regardless.
Was he
Yeah.
better than Kevin Love?
Kevin Love on those Cavaliers teams was not essential. They could have won it without him. So I mean,
no, they could not have. That's not true.
I don't know, bro.
In 2016 in Game 7, he had 16 rebounds in that game.
Amazing.
Oh yeah.
There's no way that they're winning that NBA championship without him. They're not.
The three of LeBron, Kyrie, and Austin Reaves has to be
no. No.
I would say
John. The only reason why I'm kind of upset here is because you're allowing this guy to feel like he has some kind of upper hand in this conversation.
No, I see where they're coming from.
He
but
said
just,
a crazy statement.
He did. He did.
He can definitely be a starter on a championship team.
He can.
Oh, okay.
He can
be the fifth.
We can get. I think you sold me on the starter part because there have been players who are not elite two guards that have been starters, right? I mean, Mario Elie wasn't elite as a starter on the San Antonio Spurs. No, he was not. But you need a whole bunch of things to go right in order for you to win the NBA championship.
Yeah. I just think off of 2 top 10 players, he could be the third piece.
Okay.
To be the third guy, you got to remember too. This isn't playing against Oklahoma City in January. This isn't playing against Toronto. What they're doing is they're keying in solely on you, and you look a lot different in the playoffs than you do in March. Way different in the playoffs than you do in March.
And you're not going to get the whistle.
I'm hoping you're right.
April.
And listen,
I don't want this to be like I'm praying on this. I hope you're right.
And John, I can argue that when LeBron comes back, I can argue Vando is more important than Reaves. I can argue D'Lo is more important than Reaves.
I agree with that.
But on the ball,
Vando, I'm talking about just the game of basketball.
I love Vando. He's a 20-minute per game player.
He's the reason why the defense has been what? The second best.
But he is a 20-minute per game player that may not close.
First since the trade deadline.
Austin can close for you.
Vando probably will not be in the closing.
Last year in the playoffs, Vando was at 17.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, I mean, hold your horses,
Strong
man.
statement. Strong
Come
statement.
on.
That
It's
if it
been
comes
like 5
true,
games.
I'm gonna be so fucking happy.
I'm not.
I have no idea.
No, I understand the foul drawing stuff's not going to be there in the playoffs.
I don't care about
everyone's
that.
overlooking. He's a really good finisher and a really good mid-range
and
shooter.
a very good defender, which
And
is
he's
one of
also
the
good at
main
drawing
reasons
fouls.
why he's in our closing lineup.
Okay, listen.
Yeah, so Vando last year played 21 minutes per game in the playoffs.
We can admit that he is a good player without saying that he can be.
But he's scratching the
third
surface,
best
I
player
think.
on
Don't you think he's getting better?
At 24 years old.
I want your opinion on this. Is Austin Reaves regular?
Come on.
Is Austin Reaves regular?
Is he regular?
When I think about regular, I think about replaceable. I think about every day. Like, can we just find Austin Reaves? I mean, he was undrafted, and he's in a pretty good.
Allegedly,
yeah, he's in a pretty good system. I mean, would Austin Reaves be still in the league if he was in Detroit the last 2 years, or if he was in Toronto or Atlanta? Would they be utilizing him?
Really,
Killian Hayes is starting on the Pistons, so yeah.
Facts. I think he would probably get burned.
Riv made a great point. Why can't y'all just allow AR to be this good in his role? I agree, but I think Austin Reaves, if he continues getting better,
Am I chatting that he could be more than that? I think that he is amazing in his role.
What happened to John Conchar? Is he getting minutes consistently?
John Conchar still a good
on that
defender.
Grizzlies team, he's a role player off the bench.
He is a role player.
What is that?
I don't have a problem with him being. I don't have a problem with him. When I think about him as a starter, I'm that's growing on me more. But the third best player on a championship team,
strong statement.
I think
you got a difficult time selling
it. It has to be 2 top 10 players alongside him.
But D'Lo's better than him, bro.
I've watched D'Lo in the playoffs.
D'Lo since coming to the Lakers, I agree with you. Last year was hard to watch, but this year since being acquired, he's been phenomenal.
Drew, I have an issue with what John is saying, man.
Talk to me.
Why are you so hypercritical over D'Lo in the playoffs? We never even seen Austin Reaves yet. You don't even know what he's gonna do.
Because Austin's more of a wing.
At least we've seen D'Lo. I mean, this year best career efficiency, averaging 18 on the contract year. You don't think he's motivated? You don't think off of LeBron James he can shoot the ball?
I just don't think Austin Reaves can be worse than D'Lo in the playoffs. And as a wing, he's gonna have less responsibility.
Okay, but we know if D'Lo is D'Lo, he's way
the floor of D'Lo is lower because he's a point guard.
So
it's a more essential role.
Why are you measuring D'Lo off of the absolute worst case scenario that's going to happen?
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
If he's D'Lo, he clears Austin Reaves.
It's true.
It's not even a debate.
It is true. And that's what I was saying to you earlier, John. Especially with the way that D'Lo has incorporated himself into this offense.
He's been great for the
when
Lakers.
LeBron comes back,
they're 13 points better with him on the floor.
Who? With D'Lo?
13 or I think it's 12.
Oh my God! Now we have 2 Lakers guys on the show.
No, I told him. I texted
this came out of nowhere.
John, you took the mantle from me as the only other Lakers supporter.
If you've been paying attention
I knew
to John,
this was coming because
he
told me a month ago that the Lakers could beat the Nuggets in the playoffs.
I didn't say that.
Yes, you did say that.
When did I say that to you?
It was before we went live.
Statement?
I never said that to you.
You did say that. You said you were like, I don't know, man. I'd pick the Lakers, man. You were
I don't know.
sobbing
I
about
don't
the
know.
Nuggets
He's
maybe
a Nuggets
losing.
guy. He's a Nuggets guy.
My goodness.
Come on, John.
He's making shit up.
Bro. I'll do you a favor.
He's making shit up.
I'll give you my other
How
Laker
dare you?
jersey.
Oh,
Now,
no,
how dare you do that?
So if the Lakers are healthy, you do have the Nuggets and the Lakers in the series.
We have to actually think the Lakers make the playoffs
Oh
first.
my God, John! Nuggets are your team.
God, I think the Nuggets are going to the finals. That's my number one team in the West. They had been
so
last
they
month.
would beat the Lakers if they're going to the finals.
Right.
They'd beat.
Well,
the
I don't think the
Lakers.
Lakers are going to make the playoffs. It's not a guarantee yet.
But if the Lakers do make the playoffs,
John, come on.
If the Lakers make the playoffs and they play the Nuggets in the first rounds, LeBron would need to be healthy.
no, see, you're turning this into something else, John. It's real simple.
no,
You got the Denver Nuggets.
you're
Go,
gonna
you got the Denver. You got the Denver Nuggets going to the finals. The
If you're gonna
Los
ask
Angeles Lakers are healthy, coming into the playoffs, and they got to see the Denver Nuggets in round one. Who wins that series?
Both teams are fully healthy.
Yes, fully healthy.
Fully healthy.
Fully.
Michael
James is ready. Nobody's fully
Give me
healthy going
Jokic.
into the
Give me the
playoffs.
Denver Nuggets. It's 7
Nobody's
games.
healthy. Nobody's fully healthy after an 82-game season. Guys are beat up, but
Well, that's why
as
I'm
healthy
saying
as you
talk down
guys
the
are as healthy as you could possibly be, but evenly matched. Everybody's in the lineup. James is in the lineup. Joke is in the lineup. AD is in the lineup. Austin Reaves is in the lineup. MPJ is in the lineup. Murray is in the lineup. KCP is in the lineup. Aaron Gordon. All your guys are in the lineup. Who wins this series in 7 games?
Denver Nuggets. 7 games,
Okay.
I think you go.
Now, the NBA right now has a load management problem. Only 5 All-Star players missed 5 games or less this
I
season.
love talking about
And OG, you have been watching the game for a very long time. You've watched it when players took a lot of pride in playing every single game in the regular season.
Mhm.
There's been a lot of theories as to why this is still a problem. Why players are playing less than ever but getting hurt more than ever.
Mhm.
What do you think it is? Why do you think right now this is such a tough issue to gauge right now?
I think that it's largely due to both sides being culpable. So the owners do hold out guys because they do have to protect their commodities. So a guy like Anthony Davis, like I told you before, he goes 35 and 15 one night and he's a healthy scratch the next night. Well, if he plays the next night and he's got a history of being hurt and he ends up getting hurt the next night and he's out for 10 more games, that's bad for business. That's terrible for business. However, when you got a guy who is healthy or is hurt, he's not injured. I mean, he's not injured, he's hurt. And he can actually go, but he won't go because he's trying to protect himself. I think those two things are completely different. Back when guys played 80, 82 games, the reason why that was important was because that was all they had. The game was all Mitch Richmond had. The game was all Joe Dumars had. There was no social media. There weren't many guys getting shoe commercials and mass endorsements and things like that. My game is my reputation. So if I'm showing up regularly, this is what you're judging me on. You judging me on my game. Now you got these guys in and out of the lineup. What they have at stake is more than just their game. It's not just their game. It's more of their social media accounts, their shoe deals, and me getting hurt. That stuff might go away. So I got to protect that. I got to protect me to protect that stuff more than anything.
To me, it's not a huge deal for the fact that ratings are up 1% from last year. Yes, it is unfortunate that we see our players sit, the star players sit, because night to night, I want to turn on a game and I don't want to have to worry about going to check the injury report and seeing whether or not LeBron or AD or D'Lo, just because, of course, I'm just talking about the Lakers, are going to play or not. So, yes, that aspect of it does suck. I want to see the star players play on a night-to-night basis. But really, when it comes to ensuring that these guys are ready for playoff times, because that's when ratings are at their best. Come playoff time, it's a long season. Similar with the MLB, it's a 162-game season. There are going to be players that take off to ensure that they're primed for playoff time, and that's why you have players like LeBron who in the past have vocalized being in support of a shortened season because they want to ensure that their bodies are as healthy as possible for playoff time when NBA wants their players on the court the most, that they're there. So for me, it's not a huge deal. I understand if you're fans, it's unfortunate, but regardless, it doesn't seem to be bothering fans since ratings are up from last year.
Right.
The cause for concern is that, yes, these players are becoming injured on a little bit more frequent of a rate, but it's because the game's evolving. It's a faster game. It's a more physical let me not say more physical, but a lot more is involved in terms of jumping, play to play, the lateral movements, the dribbling. It's a lot more on the legs, a lot more on the knees, a lot more on the soft tissue. So that's another reason. That's another thing to take into account. But these guys are so athletic that they put a lot on their bodies. So time to time, they might have to take a game. I understand as a fan that might upset you, but these guys get paid millions and millions of dollars to put on a show for you guys. And you want them to be able to put that show on when it matters most come playoff time.
Prime example would be tonight. I mean, I want to see Joker and Giannis go at it tonight. That's very important. I don't want to hear that Giannis is a healthy scratch for tonight. I want to make sure that Joker and Giannis are going tonight. I'm going to watch that game.
And to further go on off that is LeBron and KD have not played against each other since 2018.
Yeah, 5 years.
LeBron was a Cavalier.
I was going to say LeBron was a Cavalier. Blake Griffin was top 10 in. I think they did. Was that the Christmas Day matchup? I think
it might have been, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then Ben Simmons was obviously All-NBA player at that time.
Mm-hmm.
You had Blake Griffin top 10 in points. So that's just how different the league was. But that was the last time we saw two of the best players we've seen this game have match up against one another.
Oh, they did play. It was 2018 Christmas Day. So LeBron was a Laker.
No, LeBron was on the Cavs when
2018 Christmas. I mean 2018-19 season. So 2018-19 was LeBron's first year as Lakers.
You're right.
I think
that's when he got hurt on Christmas.
Yep.
He got hurt that game.
Oh, right.
Yes,
that was where he had the groin
and Lonzo
injury,
got hurt
right?
too. That's when the season went downhill.
That was when shit hit the fan. I love this topic because nowadays a lot of the top players, like Kevin Durant's 34, LeBron's 38, they're playing longer than ever before. They're more durable, and part of that is that they have to sit out sometimes to manage their body for the playoffs. Because hey, look, for as much as I would love to see Giannis Embiid and Jokic play tonight, I'd much rather those guys play every game in the playoffs at a high enough level.
Agreed.
And because of how perimeter-oriented the game is today, for those centers specifically, like Anthony Davis, who have to guard more in space, the game is faster. It can wear you down more and more in the fourth quarter, and the fatigue can add up over time. But one article that I loved reading was in 2018, titled "These Kids Are Ticking Time Bombs," and it's an article about how athletes today, a lot of the time, they specialize in one sport, and especially with young hoopers that are so good at basketball. It's like, okay, I can play Division I basketball. I'm 6'5". I'm going to be tall. I can maybe make it to a professional level. A lot of the time, they specialize in just basketball itself. And the overuse of playing basketball all day, every day for 5 to 10 to 15 years, by the time these athletes get to the NBA at their size, some have different frames than others. Some biomechanically may not just be naturally durable, but others, I feel like the repeated overuse that can lead to some of these stress injuries, like a Cade Cunningham with his shin, or in Julius Randle's NBA debut as a Laker fan, 5 minutes in, he breaks his leg on a routine play because the repeated overuse, the repeated wear and tear, that can get to a player when you're just training the same muscle groups over and over again without much rest. And I think that plays a role in load management, maybe not working to the extent people would hope.
I think that's a good point. The overloading of players' bodies at a young age is a fascinating argument. The only pushback I give to it is that now we can measure these players and how much they play. They play AAU, they're playing high school basketball, they're playing in college. We can measure it. But before the AAU was prevalent, I'm sure people that love playing basketball were playing at the park probably just as much. You know, people were playing all day long on concrete floors.
More physical, no doubt.
And so there's just no way to measure the differences in that. And I feel like definitely in older generations, people were playing all day long, just not in an AAU format, just not in games.
Sure.
Tim Grover made an excellent point, who was Michael Jordan's trainer, famous for that.
Legend.
Yes. He said that players now don't weight train enough. They use a lot of resistance bands, and he argues that players have to build up strength to those muscles to withstand the forceful landings that they have.
I agree with that.
And he was one of those guys that, like, resistant bands are cool and stuff, but you actually have to weight train and build up those muscles to handle these landings. And he feels like that now is getting lost within the NBA. But Paul George was even talking about on his podcast that these training staffs are coming to them and telling them that to sit out certain games because of chance of re-injury. And maybe I'm thinking that maybe science has played too big of a part in this, where there's so much worry of re-injury that you might actually be doing the opposite effect and telling them to sit out.
Only pushback I give you there is they said, Kevin Durant, don't play. You have a high chance of injuring yourself. Don't play. It's the NBA Finals.
Game 5.
100%. I 100% understand Kevin Durant wanted to go out there and try and give his team the opportunity to win. Then, of course, worst case scenario happens. He tears his Achilles. He's out for the entire next season. It was these trainers coming to him and telling him, giving him that warning, hey, you have a chance of re-injuring. Let's not give it a go.
Had that been the regular season, had he done that in January, he'd have probably been out for at least past the All-Star break.
Absolutely agree.
At least past the All-Star break, he would have been out. There would have been no reason for him to get back into the lineup until then. Plus, you got guys like KD, you got guys like James, who even Kawhi Leonard, who, because they've been so brilliant in stretches, we mask the fact that they've been breaking down for years. So KD started breaking down after the 18-19 season, right? So he starts breaking down. Same logic with James. James started breaking down originally in the 18-19 season. That it actually started further back to like around 15, 16. He started to have these knick-knack injuries, and the beginning of the end of him looked like it was coming, right? Kawhi Leonard, when he had the degenerative knee issue, he started to break down. But I thought that San Antonio, I thought that Toronto, I thought they did a good job in managing him. The same thing with the Clippers, where they brought him along slowly. Now, when you're talking about load managing, there's a difference between bringing a guy along slowly to prevent injury as opposed to just holding guys out. I think that those two things are not the same.
100%.
Yeah. I think the most frustrating part of this is there's a solution. It just will never happen, and that's to play less games, right? I think it's very easy if, one of the biggest reasons where you compare something like, why doesn't the NFL have this? It's like, well, they play 17 games, and every game is extremely important, and you can't go out there and just sit a game because you want to sit or you're banged up. Like, even in the NFL, you were playing through injuries, whether it's during practice throughout the week or on game day come Sundays. And for the NBA, it's just, we know once these owners and the Players Association go and they go to collective bargain, they do the CBA, neither side is going to, even though the players might want it, because say you go in there and say, we want to have less games. You have less games, you have less revenue, which means less money is going to the players, and the contracts aren't going to be as
not doing that.
So the players side of things, their money would come down. On the owner side of things, their money would come down. So it seems like there would be a solution to play less games. And I know Adam Silver's had these ideas of doing a midseason tournament in the hopes that players would play more of those games with an incentive. But I still think that's not going to do what the NBA thinks it will, because winning a tournament, while $1 million is big for the 11th man on the bench, for the guy that is leading this team who's making $35 million, it probably doesn't have that big of an impact.
Are we sure that the NBA would lose money by shortening the season?
Yeah, you just would have less tickets to sell.
It's the ticket revenue. That's
the issue. Absolutely.
Less games to advertise.
Because the money, remember, the money isn't at the gate. I think the majority of the NBA teams, I think they make about 35% at the gate. The money is in TV and advertising. That's where the money is. So if I got less games on TV, that means I got less advertising. And if advertising is down and the TV is down, that means the revenue is down. So I don't want to do that. Absolutely not. No.
But with football, if it were 20 games, then maybe the games would matter less and the fan interest would shrink.
They just upped the games though from 16 to
one game.
And I was
there's
not
still
a
ton of pushback.
And it used to be 12.
Yeah.
I just feel like if the NBA were to shorten the season and you make it matter more, there aren't divisions. So like a Titan Jaguar game matters in December, and the NBA, no one cares about most teams that aren't in the playoff position, but they've added the play-in tournament. They're thinking about adding in the midseason tournament to draw fan interest. I think the blind spot here is the back-to-backs, and with how much more the game is on the perimeter, there's a little bit more fatigue to some of these bigger players, but also I think nowadays more than ever, partially because of AAU, you brought up the point, players playing on concrete maybe offsets the overuse in AAU nowadays. I still feel like because of, like when I played AAU, I was an average high school player. I would play 4 games in a weekend. So for a lot of these highly touted top 10 recruits that are traveling more and more in cars, like a lot of them are not getting these plane tickets. They're driving from Alabama to Washington, D.C. for a tournament and whatnot. And over time, by the time it gets to the league, I think that can play a pretty big role. And the other thing too is because of there still being 82 games, it's just another, I guess, roadblock to staying healthy long term. And that's why there's a lot of stars, I think, having those low management games. And that, as fans, we don't want to see that. We have to acknowledge the travel as well for AAU, combined with it still being 82 games. Maybe we lowered it to 72, the way it was the last couple of years with an in-season tournament. The revenue could go up because on television, those ratings would improve more. if those games actually have more meaning in December, in January, and especially in February once the Super Bowl is over.
I just think, unfortunately, that you see leagues extend the games because it's going to bring them more money. The NBA is not going to lose millions upon millions of dollars because that in turn is going to lower player salaries, and they're not going to want that either.
In the same, sure.
And the only solution really is to have younger players stop playing as much games, but there's so much money in AAU as well and so much exposure that that's not going to happen either.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Limiting the back-to-backs would be helpful, but I feel like they're still you're still trying to do that. Like you're playing right now from October. If you make the finals to June, there's not much more you could extend this season until it's a 12-month year. So even though they've been limiting the back-to-backs, there's only so much you could do.
So you guys have mentioned John, Drew, and OG. If the Lakers are healthy, then they have a good shot at the West. Another team that's dealing with their superstar being hurt is the Suns and Kevin Durant.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Durant got hurt with the Suns after they started 3-0. They were averaging 120 points per game. The lineup of CP3, Booker, Okogie, Katie, and Ayan had a plus 38.5 net rating in 100 possessions. Now, I want to ask you, what is more impactful in terms of winning the championship to these teams? LeBron going back to the Lakers, returning, or KD returning to the Suns? Who's the favorite?
This one's a weird question because I think that both need to be present for their teams to be contenders. That's an obvious statement. And I can sit here and acknowledge that Kevin Durant goes back to the Suns. That is one of the best offenses. Let me not say one of. It's the best offense in the league. You're getting a very solid defender, rim protector in Kevin Durant back.
Top 15 player all time.
Absolutely. It's Kevin Durant. But then you go into the other side, you get the best player of all time in LeBron James back to the Los Angeles Lakers, a team that's already continued to get better and better as the season's progressed, especially since the trade deadline, because it's basically a brand new roster. And then you plug in LeBron back in there, and now you have your initiator, your floor general back into the court. It's one of those situations where I find myself hard to pick a side because my side is always going to be LeBron and the Lakers. But I'm not oblivious to the fact that the Suns at full strength are probably my favorite to win the championship because of how great Kevin Durant and Booker are together on the court with the floor general and Chris Paul. And of course, we leave out DeAndre Ayton, who's very good in his own right. Yeah. Okogie's been great, giving them very solid minutes as a great role player for them as well. Campaign has been very solid as well. This team with Kevin Durant is the favorite to win the NBA championship. But what LeBron James means to the Lakers, obviously, there's no idea of a championship without LeBron James.
I'm under the mindset that I think even with KD healthy, I don't know if they're going to beat a healthy Bucks team. I think the Bucks healthy just feel like a team that's going to win the championship.
Infinite more death.
You're funny, man.
Gotta get past Celtics.
You're funny, man.
What do you mean? I'm funny.
You're funny.
Funny about what?
Get past Celtics.
Funny about what?
Sorry, do you have more to say about? I know
Listen.
your guy.
If his return is more impactful because KD takes them to a legitimate championship contender. Lakers, even with LeBron, I like them boys in Sacramento to bounce them out still in first round if they were to match.
LeBron James were obvious contenders. If you say otherwise,
it's LeBron and AD, not just LeBron.
No, LeBron comes back to the team that is being led by Anthony.
Yeah, but what if AD rolls his ankle?
What are we doing?
The Suns.
History
The
says.
Suns.
OG, come on. You're better than that. You're better than that.
I'm sorry.
Come on.
I like Denver a lot, but they're not going to be able to handle the pick and roll that the Suns are going to do to them. The Spain pick and roll, the shots in the mid range.
Yeah, it'd be
LA is
unspeakable.
gonna be able to do to them also.
I think we're leaving out. I'm sorry, Joe. Keep going.
Oh, you could go, OG.
I think we're leaving out that this Suns team was in the NBA Finals. Not only were they in the NBA Finals. I mean, I think that Monty Williams got out coached last year against that Dallas Mavericks team. But before Devin Booker went out of the lineup for 22 games or something like that, before he went out of the lineup, the Suns were the number 2 seed in the West. So they were rolling and they were getting it together. Now you plug in KD with 20 games left. Now they got to get acclimated to him. Now, don't get me wrong. KD is probably the best plug-in player in the game. Like my game travels wherever I go. My game travels, whether it's in Detroit or Denver, doesn't make a difference. My game travels. But those guys got to get acclimated to playing off of him. So DeAndre Ayton has to get acclimated to playing off of him. Now, Chris Paul needs to understand where he gets the ball to KD. Where does KD need the ball in what space? How does he need the ball off the bounce? Does he need it in transition? Off the bounce? Does he need it straight ahead? How does he get this guy involved in the offense? Because again, even though he's a scorer, it's different playing with a guy as opposed to just watching a guy. James, on the other hand, James does so much more for that Laker offense, right? He does so much more for that Laker offense that now with him off the floor and now them winning and with the way that they rolling, to get him back and to integrate himself back into that offense, I think that's a huge impact.
So you don't think that LeBron also, as much as he, of course, benefits the offense.
Talk to me, Jay Will.
It's not a Jay Williams take, but it's also that Austin Reaves has looked his best when he's played on the ball this season. D'Lo historically is better on the ball than off the ball.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with LeBron and Westbrook. When Westbrook was on the floor, LeBron was off. Westbrook was better because he's a primary on-the-ball player. Even though LeBron is going to help this offense, they're going to be better with LeBron for sure. These other players are going to have to take a back seat, and they're going to have to strive in off-ball roles.
Well, wait a minute, though, Joe. I'm glad you brought that up, because is it fair to say that with James now when James comes back into the lineup, could James be more of a facilitator as opposed to being a ball-dominant guy where he's setting guys up more than him looking for his offense?
You've seen it before.
I think, yeah, but that's still him being on the ball. That's my thing. Like,
but when you say him being on the ball for stretches, it's not him just dominating the basketball like he did when he was in Cleveland or like he did early with the Los Angeles Lakers. Now it would be more like they would speed the offense up more, because you got Beasley, right? You got Anthony Davis rim running the way he does. You got D'Angelo Russell rim running and playing in transition the way he does. And now getting these guys more involved in the offense in transition, which would speed their game, right? Sure. Which would speed their game up. And with speeding their game up, James would be more of a facilitator than more of a ball dominant guy. Is that fair?
I think you're making a valid point. The disagreement here is that I think the Suns are going to have an easier time implementing Kevin Durant. Yeah. Because Kevin Durant is legitimately a plug-in player. Their offense runs the same way. Just some certain ones run through KD now, some certain sets. But their offense, it's effortless. The fit is effortless. With LeBron, it's more of an adjustment period for those players.
And the Lakers are integrating all of these different players into the mix. LeBron's barely played with D'Angelo Russell.
A couple games.
Whereas with Kevin Durant, he is the piece. The Suns have went to the finals with this minus Mikal Bridges squad.
Right.
And so you look at their lack of depth. They can't go nowhere without Kevin Durant. They may be closer to a first-round exit. The moment you add in KD, if he is healthy, which is a big if, he's been hurt so many times, for as much of a plug-and-play player as he is, I just think that Phoenix team can beat anybody, and they would do unspeakable things. Nuggets, I'm sorry, Jokic got swept by the Suns without Kevin Durant, so I'd have to imagine if you put him into the mix, and the pick and roll, he'd dice him up like a...
To be fair, you got swept without Jamal and without MPJ.
And I think Will Barnes
and KCP wasn't on that roster neither.
Will Barnes didn't even play. So, that was the same hopscotch backcourt of Facu and Austin Reaves. I love him. Just non-starting backcourt.
The comparison I would make is if the Suns, instead of plugging and playing KD, they're plugging and playing Luka. And that's a huge adjustment for all those players around in Phoenix.
The only adjustment I think is Chris Paul playing off the ball, because Chris Paul's not the guy who just fires away 3-point looks off the catch. That's not his game. He would have to adjust that way. I'm the same with Kevin Durant.
Well, that's what I'm saying, John. When I think about Chris Paul playing as the lead guard, I think he has the simplest job in the game, because now I don't have to do nearly as much as I used to, because now I got DeAndre Ayton rim running. I got KD getting him it's going to be an adjustment, no question about that. But I got KD in transition or KD in a one-on-one. Same logic with Book. All I got to do is make open shots and get guys the basketball where they need it, and that's it.
Yeah. OG, with the Suns fully healthy, do you have them coming out the West?
I don't, and the reason why I don't is because I don't think it's enough time for KD. Is even though he's one of the best plug-in players, I just don't think it's enough time to get him back acclimated to what they're doing in Phoenix. Plus, he's been hurt, so now it's even less time. So basically what you're doing is you're asking KD with 10 games in the regular season plus the playoffs, all right, let's go win the NBA championship. I think you're asking a lot.
Who would be your pick be?
For the NBA championship?
Out of the West.
Out of the West right now. Healthy.
He said, OG.
I'm on record. I've said this before. I think that the road to the NBA championship goes through the Golden State Warriors, and I think the Denver Nuggets have the best opportunity to drop them.
Even the Warriors possibly or likely no Andrew Wiggins the rest of the way.
Right. I think that until Dre, Clay, and Steph, who since the 14-15 season, since they've been together, they've been in the NBA Finals every year. And if they've been healthy, they've been in the NBA Finals every year. So until somebody drops them when they're healthy, they're the team to beat. And I think Denver has the best opportunity to beat them. But no matter who it is, I think that Milwaukee steamrolls anybody in the Western Conference.
Yeah, I mean, the Suns just don't get to the rim enough. They're not a physical team. And that's the issue. And
Monty was just complaining about the lack of free throws. But
maybe if you had guys that actually got to the rim, that would help.
Yeah, that's why it feels like KD would be more.
Maybe if they had Austin Reaves instead of Chris Paul. Maybe.
Or, John, how about you implement Ayton more in the how many times have I seen him burying guys underneath the basket? How many times have I seen him rim running and they don't involve him as much as they should in the offense? How many times I think he'd get to the line more, and if he got to the line more, I think that would shrink the defense, which would open up the offense even more for guys like Book, KD, Chris Paul, guys like Okogie. I think it would open up the offense even more for those guys.
I get where you're coming from, but there is not a less aggressive player at the rim at the center. Like DeAndre, and if he could dunk the ball for once, that'd be amazing. He fades away every time. And so, look, he's a great player with his skill, but he hasn't set that tone at the rim. And I think that's why you don't see him get incorporated enough, because he's not that aggressor. Well, you make a good point. He can punish a switch. It's often him fading away, turnarounds, jump hooks. It's not him just pulverizing some guy in the post at the rim the way he can, but he just always settles. And that's okay. He's great. But we then look at a series like the Mavericks where you don't set that tone on Dwight Powell and get cooked in 7 games. So that's where I come from with the lack of aggression at the rim.
You think he's soft?
I think he settles too much.
It's a nice way to put it.
That's a nice way to put it. Sure.
It's a nice way to put it.
So on to the last topic of the show, playoff matchups we want to see the most. So we're not sure what the playoff matchup is going to be as of right now. Mm-hmm. But what series do you want to see the most? If you could come up with one, I'm gonna start with you, John. Come up with one series, and if we got more, we'll name them. But what's your first one?
My series is the 76ers versus the Milwaukee Bucks. The way the Eastern Conference works, sorry, Joel, the Sixers ain't beating the Celtics in the playoffs. And we know that.
They're crazy.
Yeah.
But James Harden's playing at his level.
You know what he shoots in Game 7s? 37%.
Oh, they shoot in other games. Maybe it doesn't have to go to a Game 7.
It'd help if you could actually clutch up in the biggest moments, no? For the third best point guard. You call him the third best point guard of all time. And so you know what? Here's my thing with the 76ers. Yeah. I didn't mean to even throw that straight at Harden, but I feel like I did.
It came off the top.
But the reason I say that is because the Celtics switchability would give him problems. But against the Bucks in the playoffs, things change because there's not a better matchup for Giannis than Joel Embiid. And I think in the pick and roll, seeing Giannis versus James Harden be a great matchup. You get to see Joe Ingles in the mix with Jay Crowder. That is the series where I think the Bucks are vulnerable because of how great Joel Embiid is on both ends of the floor. We have not seen that yet in the playoffs. We've seen Embiid lose the Heat. I still don't feel great about them against Miami. We've seen him struggle against the Celtics, but we have not seen Joel Embiid against the Bucks yet. And until we do, I'm not counting them out to go to the finals because I think they match up so well against the Bucks.
Harden struggled against the switches so much that historically, when it went up against Golden State, he had Clay, he had Draymond, he had Iguodala switching on to him. And he was still cooking them.
Yeah, he didn't cook in Game 7 when they shot, or was it Game 6 when they
got to Game 7? No other team was able to take that team.
Oh, I agree. Games. I do appreciate him for doing that, but the reality is he stinks in Game 7s.
Well, the reality is that he's one of the best players of all time. You better respect him.
John,
I respect him.
Let me
I'm just
up your,
being honest.
Your series and your statement there. My brother Josh is very adamant. He says it. Milwaukee is a team that he's not overly scared to play, but when it comes to Boston, he wants nothing to do with that because he understands that Boston.
The Sixers are 0-3. Sixers are 0-3 against.
It's bound to
change. They're 0-2 versus the Heat.
And guess what? Yeah. Because of that historical loss against the Celtics, if the Sixers can actually beat them in the series, that will give them the ultimate confidence to beat whoever. I want that even more.
They would also most likely have to get past the Celtics. Milwaukee likely is going to, lock up that 1 seed. Celtics have a game up on the Sixers now with a pretty light schedule, and then Philly's in third place. To stick with the Eastern Conference, though, I want to see Cavs versus Knicks. That's the one I'm looking for.
I was going to say that.
The top 3 in the East, whether Celtics, Sixers, Bucks, all 3 of them. It's going to be a great series no matter who plays. But that first round matchup, 4 versus 5, it seems impossible that we're not going to get this in round 1 because this Knicks team that's been coming along and really catching everyone by surprise, and this Cavs team who obviously made the huge Donovan Mitchell trade trying to get into that championship conversation, they're still a bit above schedule, I think. I don't even know if they thought they'd be this good this early on, but how great their defense is going up. We've had these debates on the show with the Cavs and Knicks. That's the one I'm looking for. First round, that might be the best series in the playoffs.
If Julius Randle performs against Evan Mobley, we need to have a 1 hour apology ready for Julius Randle.
I agree.
Get the know
If he eats on Mobley, he
gotta get
deserves
the
an hour
notebook out.
apology.
I just think when teams force Randall right, shit's gonna go south.
Oh, like Simone. Yeah, sure. Let's just clamor on the lefties.
To
To the lefties.
Well, I show respect to Randall, and then he had that series versus the Hawks. So
Go
that's
ahead,
why.
OG.
in the words of Joel Embiid in reference to the Boston Celtics, there is no rivalry. They kick our ass every time we play them. Y'all don't want nothing to do with the Boston Celtics. Nothing. As much as I see Joel Embiid being as dominant as he is, as much as I dig the 20-10 guy that he has in James Harden, I don't think that the Philadelphia 76ers want anything to do with the Boston Celtics. I'm loving that Knicks-Cavs matchup. I think the difference is going to be in the front court. With Jared Allen dealing with Robinson, if Evan Mobley outplays Julius Randle in the playoffs, Julius Randle in the playoffs, I'm out, Joe. I'm out. I'm telling you right now. If he outplays him in the playoffs, I'm out. That's all I have to say about that.
Listen, OG, it's fair, and I'm torn because I like Evan Mobley a lot. You know, he was a top prospect, and my ceiling for him was an All-NBA player. And I do think that if the Cavaliers are ever going to win a championship, it's because of his ascension into that All-NBA status. It's possible. Evan Mobley's offensive game has been coming along. It's possible. But it's also possible Jalen Brunson does to Donovan Mitchell what he did to him these past playoffs. And Jalen Brunson's going crazy. Quinn Grimes is going crazy. Emmanuel Quickly is going crazy. Josh Hart is defending.
He's got a point.
Because we have the wing advantage over the Cavaliers.
You do.
We have the wing advantage.
That's probably the only thing you have, though.
And we have the recent playoff performance of Jalen Brunson over Donovan Mitchell to show
Mitchell's
us
an all-time player performer.
that Brunson has been better in the playoffs. You cannot be all-time if you have not made the conference finals, buddy. Sorry.
Stop this.
Sorry. So who's your playoff matchup?
Playoff matchup I want to see. I won't include the Lakers because everyone knows
have a Lakers.
Really? No Lakers? Wow. Okay.
If I had to, if you're gonna pull my leg, I would like to see the Suns versus the Lakers just because of that rivalry. The last time we saw them, it seemed as if we were just going to steamroll right through them. Yep. We seemed dominant. Anthony Davis, back-to-back 30-point performances. AD goes down. Unfortunately, we're not able to recover. But now this time they have Kevin Durant. We have hopefully a healthy Lakers squad. That'd be great to see. Another great matchup would be the Suns and the Warriors, just for the fact that Kevin Durant has not played the Golden State Warriors since leaving. That'd be an awesome matchup to see come playoff time. And really, I'm just hoping that the Lakers can make a run because I would love to see the Lakers versus the Kings as well. Yep. That's another solid matchup for the fact that the Kings' offense is so high potent, one of the best offenses in the game, statistically the best offense in the game in terms of offensive rating. But what they lack is defense. Yeah. And what we've been great at recently since the trade deadline, last 15 games, has been our defense. And then when you incorporate the fact that we have LeBron James, we have Anthony Davis, D'Angelo Russell's been able to cook it since being acquired, Austin Reaves' ability to get to the foul line. We're an offense that could put up points against this team, and we're a defense that could potentially halt the Sacramento Kings. It'd be an amazing series and one that I would love to see.
I would love to see that too because you have the Kings who all regular season long have been dominant, and for the most part, people overlooking them. And then you have the Lakers, which is basically the complete opposite. They have
it'd be a rematch.
And now you have this Lakers team. Every Lakers fan said, "Just let us get in, let us get into the playoff,
cook, boy."
And they've even said, we wanted. There's the rumors that they want the Kings, and the Kings are over there saying, "We don't care who we see." It'd be a perfect matchup between the two.
I hope that if they face off this time, unlike in 2001, it's not rigged in the Lakers' favor. I do hope that.
That would be a theme still.
Can we dead this whole rig logic, Joe? I'm so over the 2001 Western Conference Finals being 2002 Western Conference Finals being rigged because we leave out an important piece to that series. The important piece to that series that we leave out is 2 months before that, I believe, in the words of Vlade Divac, if we have home court advantage, we will beat the Lakers. End quote. The important part that we leave out is there was a game 7 in their building. Not only was it a game 7 in their building, they completely went the other way. Chris Webber, 53 minutes, 5 points, 4 rebounds after the intermission. Doug Christie, quote, "I have never been more scared in my life when we went into overtime." This is what we're dealing with. This is what we're dealing with. Vlade Divac, I think he played 27 minutes. I think he had 15 points and 10 rebounds. Shaq went 35 and 10 in that game. Kobe went 30 and 10 in that game. You had the game 7 in your building and you cheesed up. Period. I'm tired of the whole rig logic.
Goodness.
OG,
I was not born
historian.
yet. So
I
you
needed
know
that
what?
history lesson because now I'm here Googling what happened in the game 7.
It was game
a
6
lot
that was
of
like
fouls.
controversial.
That led to the game 7. A couple of Western Conference matchups. The Western Conference, the Wild West, could be something special this season. 1-8 currently is Lakers Nuggets. That could be a great series. 2-7, I need the Warriors to drop the 7 because I think the Grizzlies would beat them in that series. If Andrew Wiggins isn't playing, I'm wishing him the best. That's more important than anything. Some things are bigger than hoops. The Grizzlies are going to beat the Warriors, though, if he is missing because he was their second most important player last year against the Mavericks. Huge. 3-6. If the Mavericks could stop sucking, I would love to see the Mavericks play the Kings in 3-6.
Enough. I don't want to see
But
that.
Mavericks and
played
Kings would be a great series.
They
Sorry.
played like shit, so we're not going to see that. 3-6, I would instead like to see the Suns versus the Kings. Or you know what? No, fuck that. 4-5, I like Clippers versus Suns a lot.
Yeah, it's a
Getting
great
to
matchup.
see Kawhi versus KD, Devin Booker versus Paul George. We've always went mano a mano with those players, those two stars. And I also think Chris Paul as well playing his former team. That would be an amazing series as well. And the play-in tournament, man, it's a rat race. If you got the Thunder in there, they can get some playoff experience. And Mavericks, the Mavericks currently are slide out to the play-in tournament. We'll see what that's.
That's your boys.
Did you say
I have-
Suns
That's your
Warriors?
boys. Talk to me. What happened?
What's happened to the Mavericks?
Talk to me. They're not good.
I was on the show saying I think Jason Kidd can muddy it up in a playoff series.
Yeah.
And the guys
He's muddying up his own team.
muddying up his own team. Also, Dwight Powell's their starting center. And
He's not
Is
great.
Dwight Powell a starting center in the NBA?
not even close.
He's
OG, he is not.
That was the question that I needed.
He should
That
not
was the
be-
question that I need. Is forget on a playoff team. Is he a starting 5-man in the NBA?
No way, no.
No.
Only on the Mavericks.
Mm.
Only on the Mavericks.
There's 3
So-
playoff matches I want to see. You mentioned one of them with the Suns and the Warriors. I need Kevin Durant to beat Steph Curry. I do. I need that to happen.
Riv's
I
probably
like-
screaming
I like-
at his computer right
I
now.
like the Kings. I like
Rib cannot handle it. I know for a fact
Oh,
he's ready to
okay.
lose it.
I like the Kings and the Warriors a lot. I
Okay.
think that would be an offensive explosion. The Lakers and Clippers, we finally get that series. We've never gotten it.
I'm gonna
It was
pass on
hyped
that.
up for years.
I'm gonna pass on that.
If that is a series, Lakers and Clippers, it would
No
be an
thanks.
amazing one.
I don't want to see that.
And then, the Eastern Conference, even though this is going to be lopsided, I would love to see the Bucks just whoop the Celtics' ass in the playoffs.
You had to know
That's
it was
something I would
Team
love to
X. It could have been the Sixers, could have been the Bucks. If it was a couple months ago, it would have been the Nets. A couple months ago, it could have been the Knicks too. You pick a team to go against the Celtics. You've been wrong every single time.
He's just picking a team.
No, I haven't.
You have been-
I'm not
I
going to be
think-
wrong this time.
Here we go.
This is the one though.
Blind
squirrel
it was
finds
just the
an acorn every
Nets.
once
It
in a
was just the
while,
Nets and Celtics. What else is
Sixers,
what is new?
0-3 this year.
Regular season.
Oh, word.
I'm not worried about
Oh,
it.
no.
Sixers are worried about the playoffs. James Harden's a playoff guy.
Okay.
Huh?
Yeah.
What is he?
James Harden's
This,
a playoff guy.
this isn't a rivalry. They kick our ass every time we play them.
That is so funny.
I love Embiid for that.
All right, so that's going to do it for this show, OG. We appreciate you for coming on.
Shout out OG as always.
OG, per usual, you know the drill. Is there anything you want to shout out before you get out of here?
Not much, man. Like I said, I get some inquiries from other people, but I always got time for you guys because this is good. This is quality content here. You guys have always been on the up and up. You guys have always been legit. You break down basketball, you talk basketball, you give legit logic, and when you don't have legit logic, you make sure that people explain themselves, right? Absolutely, make sure people explain themselves. So I know when I come on here that it's going to be good. Like I said, I always got time for you guys, no doubt.
Appreciate
We
that.
appreciate
OG.
that.
Absolutely, brother. Take it light, but take it.
A fucking
see ya.
side. Amen.
Absolutely, guys.
Thank
Take
you.
it light.
Now to finish off this show on some super chats, Q Bugavelli, best number 2 over AD, Drew, in reference to Jaylen Brown.
That's the thing. For me, I don't see AD as a Robin. He really has to be the Batman. We have 2 Batmans, thankfully. The thing is, Jaylen Brown, where he's ascended himself as an offensive player this year, he is just the epitome of a number 2. And I mean that with love and admiration.
And Drew, sorry, John, I'll say Drew mentioned it. The biggest change in JB's game pre and post All-Star break has to be his 3-point shooting, who is around 33, 34%. Now he's up to 40%. I think the game has slowed down I don't know what it is, but the game really has seemed to slow down. He doesn't seem as wild when he's dribbling. He seems to keep his head up when he's driving. Turnovers have been brought down from 3 a game to about 2.3, I want to say. So there's been a lot of improvement, JB, these last 10, 15 games.
Yeah, he's preparing to be a New York Knick soon.
You don't deserve him.
River Brown.
Talking to him.
Bro.
River Brown only $10.
River Mr. Brown.
Nick Perez.
Hold on, bro. Did we even give Riv his shout out earlier in the show?
We actually didn't.
Riv,
we got
our love and prayers to you, King.
Didn't we tell OG that he has COVID?
We told him
before the show.
Oh.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Riv does have Coco. So hopefully he's doing all right. Wasn't even feeling up to be on Zoom, that's how crazy he was feeling. So hope you're doing all right, King.
Absolutely. Nick Perez, Brown to Miami Heat, Triple B, Brown, Butler, Bam.
Hot.
That would be beautiful.
No, I mean, don't get it wrong. The Heat, without a doubt, will have interest in Jaylen Brown. They can do every single player in the NBA. They won't get him.
Q Bugavelli. It took Philly 5 years. OKC and Sam Presti have did their best job in the shortest time. Chat comes back, draft Jarris, and trade for a star, Jaylen Brown.
That'd be hot.
Who's he talking about?
He's talking about OKC.
Oh.
Well, who is Jaylen Brown starting over?
For what?
What do you mean?
Not Josh Giddey.
Okay.
What are you talking
He'll start over everybody except SGA.
Q Bugavelli again.
Dort would not start.
He doesn't start now.
I think
he's
Dort,
the sixth man?
I think Dort would
J-Dub
be the
starts?
sacrificial lamb.
Are you sure?
It's SGA, Giddey,
Jalen Williams. You're right.
J-Dub.
You're 100%
But
right.
there's
J-Dub,
two-
Jalen
both-
Williams.
yeah, both
You're right.
Jalen's.
You're right.
And I'm not sure if Isaiah Joe starts. I don't know. I don't think he probably does.
He's shooting 44% this year. It's pretty ridiculous.
He's also doing some stuff off the dribble too, which is a little bit scary.
Shout out to the Sixers for cutting him, man.
Let me
Thank
see how
God.
many
Doc
times.
Rivers is excellent at that. Yep.
Let me see how many times Dort has started this year.
Dort
No, he
started
is
last
a
night.
starter.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, Dort started like every game this year.
Yep, I thought so.
Well, yeah, he's the guy out.
Yeah, so it'd be Giddy, Dort. Sorry, it'd be SGA, Giddy, Dort, J-Dub, J. Will.
No way they put Gay the bench run the second unit.
That would
Have
be a
Dort's
pretty good idea.
Q Bugavelli. I think the teams that will have the West will be Memphis or OKC, but there's a bunch of teams with 4-year windows messing it up.
Yeah, the West is wide open. I mean, even like the Nuggets who have been a powerhouse this year, it's hard to rely on Jamal and MPJ every single year. And Jokic with his body and his frame, is he going to be around for 7 more years? Probably not.
Not so breaking. It happened 20 minutes ago. The Portland Trail Blazers are leaning towards shutting down Damian Lillard.
We just got a super chat of that by Caleb.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, what are they playing for? Nothing. So
There's 10 games. How many games are they
They're
playing?
3.5 games out of the play-in.
They're not.
Q Bugavelli, again, the PG slander was crazy to me. Year 3, he was going head-to-head with LeBron. Got hurt something nasty and was getting MVP buzz. He had maybe 2 bad series.
Yeah, it was always disrespectful, the playoff, stuff that he was getting.
He also
but
played bad in Game 7 against the Heat.
He didn't play up to expectation for Paul George, but he went through a lot.
NPC Santos, 2 donations. He goes Poole over
That
Reaves.
moves me.
yes.
That moves
Yeah,
me.
yes.
How sure are you?
I do think I maybe, to some people, sound like a moron when I said the Austin Reaves can be a 3rd best player, a championship
Oh, you
contender.
did.
Not to me.
But the reason I said that is with 2 top 10 players. Jordan Poole, I'm taking his upside and his scoring.
Exactly.
I wonder.
All right, so
wonder.
was the me saying Reese over Poole still laugh worthy?
I disagree with that because
Or
the
you could
defense.
disagree, but was it
What was your
laugh-worthy?
reasoning behind that defense?
Poole
And I
could be
just
the
don't
best.
think there's.
Well, that was
a
one of
huge-
the reasons.
Yeah,
but
because you did laugh at him for that, and then
I
said he
did.
could be the 3rd best.
that's why
player.
I was
That
just
feels
like, what are we
Wait,
doing?
hold up. I'm
fair.
actually questioning. I doubt that after the Knicks paid Brunson, you were probably willing to be like, yeah, Brunson could be the 3rd best player on the championship team.
He was the 2nd best player on a team that went to the conference finals last year.
So before knowing what he was going to do in New York, when he first got
honest,
the
I
contract,
just felt like he couldn't be number 1, and I was wrong. He can be
What
a
about
number
the
1 on a
third?
playoff team. Oh yeah, definitely.
on a
I didn't
championship team.
think in New York he could lead them to the playoffs,
It
which
feels
I was
good being
dead
on the
wrong
right side of
about.
history with
Of
Jalen
course,
Brunson.
Jalen
Congrats,
Brunson.
I was wrong about that. You're right.
I'll take that too.
Okay,
Thank you.
tell us what the hell. Let's do it.
No, what did he deserve?
Why not? So the PG thing. I mean, DeRozan era
That's
took
fine with me.
DeRozan era took LeBron James to 7. But VO and PG both did.
Aiden Ramirez, other than KD to Golden State and Bron to Miami, what other signing or trade in the past decade do y'all think changed the landscape of the NBA?
Change the landscape.
Not really. I mean, Kawhi going to Clippers, that was definitely
Paul George
a
and
power
Huge,
move.
Yeah.
Nothing insane, truthfully. Change the landscape? No.
Kawhi to
That's what I'm saying. Kawhi
PG
to-
to the Clippers.
that's it.
I
No,
guess.
Kawhi to Toronto for a year at least.
Oh, you're right about that.
Or Drew Holiday to Milwaukee.
Would change the landscape.
I would say
it was people were more moved by him going to the Clippers and Paul George following suit because they thought, hey, the Clippers who were just a strong team the year prior. Now that you add
Chris
Kawhi.
Paul to the Rockets.
I would say if the Suns get back to the finals, Chris Paul to the Suns.
I think, but change the landscape means like there was just this is the move that made this team the best.
KD to the Suns just this past
Another
offseason,
Dennis
or
Rodman
this
to the
trade
Bulls. Not many people talk about it, but him being acquired by the Bulls completely changed their outlook as well.
Now this from RJ the God. If Luka isn't careful, he's staring down the barrel of becoming a Harden 2.0.
Correct.
Hashtag play some defense.
So
he performs
so
in the playoffs.
It's hard to play with Luka Doncic, weirdly to say, but it's true.
You just need to have a specific team built around him to.
That's why I told you Brunson was going to do what he was going to do, because Luka did not make him better, more efficient. Yes.
Well, I think Luka helps him become the player he is now.
Okay.
Playing off of Luka helped him.
I guess sure. I mean, in the playoffs without Luka, he averaged 32 points.
And
he shit on your man Donovan Mitchell. Caleb Belts, thoughts on Blazers probably shutting down Dame?
There it is.
Good. They're a sorry ass team.
Yeah. I mean,
sorry.
The fact that the West is this tight and you have all like the Jazz are still in contention for a playing team and you've amassed talent. It's not like they're talentless. It's just, I don't know whether it's Chauncey, the defense. I mean, there's a number of things you could look at, but got to shut it down.
Deco goes Kawhi over Tatum still, by the way.
Kawhi's been on a ridiculous tear.
Yeah, he's been unbelievable.
Kawhi's without doubt been playing better than Tatum over these last 30, 20 games.
I would rather Tatum because he's more
First half of the season,
reliable.
Tatum was better. Second half of the season, Kawhi's been better.
Now, Caleb Belts goes from just straight up spot up shooting. Who you're taking, Clay or Steph? I'm taking Steph still.
I'll take Steph.
I'll take Steph no matter what you're saying.
Eyes closed. Free throw.
Future NFL MVP goes Cavs in 6.
Over the next time, assuming.
NPC Santos follows it up with saying Warriors in 6.
Over who we're talking?
And now S-Man C goes disrespecting Cat return for the Wolves.
Yeah. Who cares?
No.
And now listen, Cat is returning to the Wolves, and I searched up these stats because I wanted to make sure I was right on this.
This is what movies is made of.
This month, Jaden McDaniels is averaging 16.5 points per game, shooting 51% from the field, 44% from 3, averaging 4 rebounds and a block.
Nice.
Come on, man. Get on the McDaniels train.
He's the next elite wing.
Jaylen Brown's
McDaniels
averaging
train,
28 this month.
He's the next
22
Kawhi.
years old.
On 50-40. 50-40, like 77.
Jaden McDaniels should be first.
Edwards.
I think McDaniels should have a case. He should be first team all defense.
No, he should 100% be first team all NBA because he would lock up
all
Dehls.
NBA.
Defense.
All NBA.
All defense on
Yeah,
that because he would lock up Dehls.
Hey, you'd lock me up.
Dehls wouldn't know what
If
to do
only
with
he
him.
could lock up the Celtics when we played.
No, he would. He could lock y'all up.
Didn't we
easily.
beat him?
He would lock y'all up easily.
Back-to-back 25.
And now that Cat is healthy, he had an easy 20 healthy last night.
Wolves would beat us now, right?
He going Cat healthy. Edwards is coming back. His injury's not that serious.
Yeah, Carl Anthony Towns.
The Timberwolves are the real sleeping giant. Let's be honest.
They actually were pretty good with him.
Yeah,
Wolves are the real.
They were a disaster with him and Rudy.
He had 22, 4, and 3.
Yeah, no, I saw. I'm telling you.
Respect him.
Wait till Anthony Edwards comes back.
Respect him.
Wait till Anthony Edwards
Because if the Timberwolves face the Lakers in the play-in, you're not gonna want that smoke.
I want that.
You don't want that smoke.
I feel like T'Lo would just play very well for the first time in the playoffs.
Yeah, I actually on the playback I told Drew this. I said, now let's say hypothetically the Timberwolves and the Lakers finish with the same record and they face in a play-in and it comes down to the play-in and the Lakers win. Does that mean I owe him the money for the bet?
What was your answer?
I said we said regular season.
That's funny.
I'm consistent.
It should. How about this? It comes down to that. They have the same record. If Joel wins, you owe him the bread. If not, you guys even.
Because now if we're gonna put that in advance, I'm with it.
Well, then you guys would just break even.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah.
Even though we shouldn't break even because the last bet was
it
regular
more?
season.
That was never clarified. It was regular season.
We
just said better record.
You let a fan dictate.
You said clarified better record, just a better record in the season. That's it. Better record in the season, so playoffs included.
Yeah, that reach is crazy.
So then the Jaguars, you ain't know the Jaguars was gonna be this.
Give me the ill
because I knew it.
Now.
Oh,
I knew the Jags were gonna be that. Let's go.
Reach around's crazy.
And I seen you quote tweet that Matt Ryan take. You're despicable for that.
I'm glad.
Shout out your burner, man. Shout out last responder Drew.
Despicable.
Oh,
Last responder Drew. He'd have that banged up. That shit was great.
Lucky the coach was dysfunctional. Matt Ryan was gearing up for a big time.
I told
here.
you all
Yeah,
off
no,
season.
no. What's worse, Kyler over Trev or Matt Ryan over Trevor Lawrence?
Jeez.
I think Matt Ryan probably.
God.
They're both bad. There's no need to compare what's worse. They're both bad.
Okay.
You're both 2 L's.
If you're wrong, you're wrong.
Yeah. You missed the shot. I missed the shot too.
But the only difference was
I just so happened to miss a 3-pointer and you missed the layup.
the difference was
All the way around.
the Kyler Murray one was I said that once. The Matt Ryan shit you were pushing all off season.
Yeah.
Ryan. Ice. You're lucky the coach
Drew,
was a
you
bad
should like him. He's
situation.
related to Michael Glentree.
Mike McGlinchey, that's my
They're
pride and joy.
cousins.
I love him.
Now, whiz bang, McDanny, my newest jersey, disrespects sleeping giant. And Caleb Sports goes favorite sports moment. That's what we're gonna end the show off
By
with.
Favorite
far and
sports
away,
moment.
LeBron coming back from
Kobe
down.
Bryant, Game 7, 2010. Ron Artest hitting those 2 threes.
That or Dirk in his first championship for me. That was the first finals I
Screw
watched
you.
completely.
Definitely the Jets beating the Patriots in the second round.
That was great.
Easily.
Another underrated moment when A-Rod hit that 2-run home run in the bottom of the 9th against the Minnesota Twins. God.
Yeah. One of my
That shit
favorites was
dope.
Zach Wilson throw versus the Titans.
Yeah.
Jesus, that's
That
when you know.
was a great moment.
That's when you know.
That was big time.
Your
You
life's
can't
been-
even
your life's
lie.
been shitty.
You
I also-
can't even lie. When you saw that, you were like, that's our franchise guy.
Speaking
That
of
was
rookie
big time.
quarterbacks,
That was a
win,
big time.
maybe Kenny Pickett's game winner on the Immaculate Reception anniversary. That to me was a really.
I'm not
special
gonna
Was
moment.
that
lie.
the Ravens game?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I never got to watch the Steelers win a Super Bowl. I wasn't old enough, so seeing that to me was pretty. That made me cry.
I'm not going to lie. That throw was immaculate,
Fine,
bro.
I know.
That
You didn't see
euphoric
them
feeling.
win against
I was
Arizona?
like, yes.
I was 5 years old. I wasn't a football fan. I was 5.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, 5 years old. You're not.
No,
remember
no,
much
no
anyway.
way.
I was actually not a Steeler fan at the time yet.
I do remember Payton winning his championship against the Bears, though.
Yeah.
I was lit.
Yeah.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Pick Aside Podcast, episode
Gave you a 3-hour
200
episode. God damn.
and
Back to back.
66.
Hey, we not going to complain about foe.
You can follow us on Twitter at Pick Aside Pod, on Instagram and TikTok at Pick Aside Podcast, and make sure that you guys like this stream so it appears on more people's YouTube feeds. It's very important if you guys enjoy this podcast. Like it
I
up.
don't know if you saw it, but I said 1K likes, and I'm going to smack.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I
And,
typed
it's
in Joel or Joel. Who
yeah,
knows?
and it's still
Where
like
you
at
smacking us?
200 likes, I
Huh?
think.
Wow.
So make sure you
I'll let
guys
you
like
figure
up
that
this
out.
stream, support our sponsors. We'd heavily appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.